Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the September 23rd, 2025 Board of Education regular board meeting. We'll call this meeting to order at 4:34. Are there any public comment for closement? There's no public comment for closed session. We're going to retire to closed session, return at 6 p.m. Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the September 23rd, 2025 regular school board meeting. We'll call this meeting to order at 6:03, and we have language access. Welcome.
Thank you. We have Spanish interpretation and also ASL interpretation available through Zoom. Buenas tardes, tenemos interpretación al español disponible por si gustan escuchar la reunión en español. Gracias. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Maldonado, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Please rise and face the flag.
Thank you. There are no announcements from closed session. We will now move to our student board member report.
All right, thank you. So the big update I would like to talk about is we had our first Student Advisory Council meeting, which is super exciting. The Student Advisory Council is a group of students who come together to advocate for, certain student, gather student perspective and advocate for student voice. So our first meeting, we had 14 students, including myself, with pretty even representation throughout the local high schools. I got to share my desire to establish programs heightening resource awareness among students, various students in the district. And after just some discussion, some great ideas came up. And so in the end, we landed on splitting into two teams, one taking on more responsibility, establishing a high school to junior high pipeline, and the other establishing a high school to elementary school pipeline. Regarding the high school to junior high pipeline, expanding on the district showcase was the big idea we had. Student representatives from different high school programs and pathways would answer questions and give sort of short presentations in a panel format, better informing decision-making and opportunity awareness when it comes to transitioning to high school. So these representatives would travel to different junior highs and inform students there. The first steps would be compiling viable programs and pathways, and then later conducting outreach to these programs and pathways, as well as to the junior highs. In terms of the high school to elementary school pipeline, we landed on expanding after school tutoring programs to elementary schools with three primary goals: academic success, aligning with the district's goals of raising math and literacy levels; mental health, high schoolers, where high schoolers would be with the same elementary school students, making sure that they had one-on-one time together to be able to foster a sort of relationship where the students could trust, the younger students could trust those older students. And then lastly, the resource awareness aspect, which is in developing this close relationship with the younger students, high schoolers who are familiar with the junior highs and, our local school district and our school system could encourage students to challenge themselves and make them aware of different opportunities that they can take advantage of in junior high. And so, so we are looking forward to receiving a presentation, hopefully, from Peak and AOK after school program directors, and then I'm currently having some students gathering interest among peers and spreading the word. Overall, a lot of progress was made. It was pretty successful, and I'm excited to get this work started. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vasquez. With that, we'll go to the superintendent's report.
Let me tell you, Carlos was great at running a meeting, and the students were really amazing. I want to thank the high school principals that were here that also helped us to make that happen, because we know that getting our high school students to come to a student council after school at the end of a long school day was a lot. So thank you for that, Carlos. Good afternoon, everyone, board members, members of the public. Thank you for being here. As you know, board members, and I've been sharing the last couple of meetings, the district is working through a results-based leadership program. We're excited to announce a second cohort started last week. The work provides a framework for not only being a leader, but being results-oriented to improve student outcomes in our district. The members in this cohort include assistant principals, deans, principals, cabinet members, instructional coaches, teachers on special assignments. We have a representative from the Santa Barbara from the Santa Barbara Library Foundation and from the Partners in Education Foundation. They are focusing on literacy this year for their cohort. And we're really excited to see how they're going to also contribute to what everyone else is doing to improve our outcomes. Last year's cohort focused on mathematics, and we wanted to provide you with the final presentation from our high school principals. You've heard from our elementary principals, you've heard from our junior high school principals. Today you're here from our high school principals. Here to present are Mr. Derek Holdren from San Marcos, Mr. Bill Woodard from Dos Pueblos, Mr. Carlos Cohen from Alta Vista La Cuesta, and finally Mr. Ed Gomez from Santa Barbara High School. Please join me in welcoming them while they tell you about what their work was for this last year's cohort. Welcome.
Good evening, board and Dr. Maldonado. Good to have you here. When you don't have a lot of time, so we'll be very brief, but as Dr. Maldonado said, our focus was on mathematics and really focusing on our trying to understand how we can better support students who come into our high schools with varying levels of math ability. Next slide will show. Oh, I have the clicker. Great. So we began by looking at the factors that we felt impacted students who come into our schools with high variability. A lot of those students are put into what we used to call our math support class. Now we call math extended time. They get a lot more time to work on developing those skills. But the challenge for the teacher is that you have a room full of students who have varying levels of skills and have different needs, very individualized, personalized needs. So we were kind of focusing on how can we help those students, or we identified that as the biggest issue, the why, right? Like they have a wide variability of skills and gaps that need to be addressed very quickly and very thoroughly. Go back. So we decided to focus on our Math 1 support time, and like the junior highs, using IXL as our metric to see if we could move the needle in terms of developing some sort of supports for our Math 1 support teachers to have them be more effective. How could we help those teachers address those disparities when there's one of them and 20 students who have lots of different needs? What tools, resources, approaches could we use to support them? And so Carlos will talk about where we ended up going with that.
All right.
Here. Sorry. There you go.
Cool. Thank you, Principal Woodard. Good evening, everybody. Yeah, we were really excited because we really cared about our kids' progress in mathematics, and we knew they were all struggling. And what can we do? We know that our teachers are frontline warriors there working with the kids that are sometimes outnumbered, and they need that support. And when we were talking about this, we realized serendipitously Sal Khan was in the neighborhood, and he gave a presentation about Khanmigo and about AI in education. And he gave us this great presentation and shared about how, imagine a student being able to talk to AI, posing question to it, and then the AI chatting back, walking the student through the support that it needed. And we were like, this is wonderful. Wow. This is like every kid can have a one-on-one tutor. We need to work on this ASAP. We were fortunate because RBL brought all the leaders on board. Rob was there, so we looked for Rob. We're like, Rob, we would love to be able to use this. And Rob's all like, guess what? The board and the district has already been looking at possibly adopting a plan to use Khanmigo. And we're like, get out of here. How can we get it in the hands of some of our teachers so we can get this going for our small tests of change? So we decided right then on the spot, we were going to work with our Math 1 teachers for a small cohort for our test of change, our teachers on special assignment, as well as this team of administrators, counselors, and teachers, right? And it was simple. Teachers, here's what you need to work on. Here's the tool. Here are the standards. You're the experts working with our kids. Please use this for a month. Test drive it. Break it if you can. And then come back with feedback because we need you to give us information. And the beautiful thing about it is they did exactly that. They went back, they worked with their students, they did a great job, and then they realized that Khanmigo, though it was a great system to use within the Khan Academy system, it did not work well when it had to be working with ELD students and a lot of kids that needed to have literacy skills to ask the right prompt of the AI. So the teachers did an outstanding job, which they always do, and they worked with their kids, and the kids were like, nah, this is very frustrating for us. We would rather use, guess what? IXL, a system we already had. And then as we started to explore, we found out that IXL has an AI platform as well. And we said, all right, teachers, what do you want to do? You want to stop or you want to keep going? They said, let's keep going. Let's keep working together, which leads us to that second meeting we had. And Principal Holden will talk to you about that.
All right. I want to thank Ed for being here, but he's in the current cohort, so he's just here for moral support and to celebrate Santa Barbara's birthday. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
No, you're good. You're good. So the pivot we made was to switch to the IXL. We met with all the teachers. You can see the pictures from the actual meeting, some action shots there. And basically through that meeting, we made an agreement. We looked at the areas of greatest need for the students, and we had the teachers, we put a plan together where the teachers would concentrate on those concepts with the kids in IXL, because there's 5 different areas of IXL for skills. So what they did is they decided we're going to spend 30 minutes a day, 30 minutes a week working on IXL on these specific skills. They work together, which is one of the great things about us getting together with them. And they collected their data afterwards. And lo and behold, what you saw was an increase in the numbers for those skills for those specific kids, which I'm going to take a step back now and tell you, because the results-based leadership is not just about a small test of change in math. It's about leadership skills and how we can address these issues. You all know, you've been working on this for a long time. In high school, trying to change math around is a huge task, right? These kids have been in, math since kindergarten, and then they get to us and we want to try to address the skill gaps that have developed over time. There's so many different things we can do. And Bill showed you the slide of all the things we considered, right? So the AI was really supposed to address the variability, but there's there's a dozen other factors that we could address as well, right? And all in an attempt to get the math scores up or whatever you're working on. The RBL tools that we used were helpful in getting that together. The one you've mainly heard about tonight so far is the small test of change. And that's such a powerful tool because, in education, we tend to go for the biggest, brightest thing. We go all in, let's sign the contract, let's spend $1 million. We're going to solve this thing. But often we don't know what those results are going to be, right? So this seminar allowed us to explore multiple factors. And actually, we had 2 small tests of change. One for Conmigo, which didn't work for us, not to say anything bad about Conmigo, but one that worked really well and that we're continuing this year with those math teachers. Other tools that we integrated, we did a lot of checking in and checking out, which really is about building relationships, which was good for all of us. The agenda, which has been adopted district-wide, is really more about having next steps and following through. In fact, Dr. Maldonado's talked about the pathway of accountability, and that's become regular language within each of our sites and our meetings that we run. The path of accountability and next steps. The small test of change I spoke about, and then action commitments, right? I think every industry struggles with having meeting upon meeting without maybe getting anywhere, but with the busyness that we are experiencing, as you can imagine, I know you all know this, that high school principals are fairly busy. We've got to be on top of things. We've got to have action commitments. We've got to get people to help us and delegate and work with us. So we learned a lot of different skills from the results-based learning, and we're able to apply them to math. Next steps, we're currently in talks with each other about what we're going to do next. We're going to stick with mathematics. We haven't decided if we're going to look at math 3, math 2. I mean, we can't go wrong with either of them. So one thing we're doing, we're going to continue to collaborate with each other. And what we saw also was the power. I mean, we work with teachers all the time, obviously, but the power of bringing us together in a room with the teachers. I mean, you can imagine the teachers walking into a room with a bunch of administrators, and we tried to lower the filters, but they knew that we were serious about this, and we wanted to spend our energy, our valuable time on this project. So that was very helpful, and it helped us to realize some of the power that we have within those instructional areas. As I said, basically we're gonna have a new small test of change this year. We're gonna have action commitments. again, we're considering a variety of things, and we'd love to have you, as part of those conversations down the road. But we'll be doing that in our principal leadership team and elsewhere. So that's our summary of our RBL experience.
Thank you very much. Can we give them a nice round of applause? Thank you, gentlemen. Next to hardworking teachers are high school principals, and I'm gonna get in trouble with the other ones, but everybody really works hard, and I know, especially with their long, long days, I really appreciate them being here tonight. I want to move on next to this weekend. We did have a coastal cleanup day that had a team of Santa Barbara Unified students, families, staff that were there to really help be good stewards of our oceans and our sands and our beaches. We did partner with Kiwanis to help us also, because I think our team captain, Denise Alvarado, really needed some help with a tent, for example, and they were able to partner with us and come and help us out. If you're here and you were out there, thank you so much for helping out. We also, I also headed over after doing a little bit of that work to Monroe. At Monroe Elementary, we had the first campus beautification / tree planting day. There were 26 new trees that were planted on campus as part of the effort to provide more shade and adapt to the changing environment. These trees were planted in partnership with UCSB and Red Tail Developer. And it's part of our effort to help offset the loss of trees from the Tatum site sale, which is going to develop affordable housing for employees. And this is going to be happening in coming weeks at all our school sites on the weekends. We'll invite you to join us for those of you that would like to do that. And I was able to witness the planting of the first little oak tree that is a seedling from the actual trees that are getting cut down from Tatum now at Monroe. So now I know where the first tree is planted. And I know that I may not see its shade at some point in my life, but I just think it's so important for us to do that. And I want to thank Principal Nan, all the parents that were there that did all this work as volunteers as well. And now we turn our attention to a new hire. As you know, I'm very excited to introduce our new in-house legal counsel, Joanna Powell. She's starting next week, but is here tonight to introduce herself to the board. She started her career as a second grade teacher in the Bronx before becoming a lawyer to work in education law. So she knows well both what it's like to work in a classroom and the legal side of the job. I'd like to welcome her to the podium to introduce herself. Welcome.
Good evening, President Escobedo, board members, Dr. Maldonado, district staff, and members of the community. As Dr. Maldonado said, my name is Joanna Powell, and I am honored to join Santa Barbara Unified as your first in-house general counsel. As I didn't know Dr. Maldonado was going to give my bio, so I have some of the same information. I began my career as a second grade teacher in the Bronx, where I taught students from across the world in an English immersion classroom. Teaching showed me how transformative schools can be, but also how many challenges lie beyond the classroom. And that experience led me to pursue law as a tool for strengthening education systems. Since then, I've spent 12 years practicing education law as outside counsel at a firm representing districts across California, and then in-house at Oakland Unified, and most recently at a charter network called Summit Public Schools. I've worked across the full spectrum of school law, special education, labor and employment, student discipline, governance contracts, litigation, all the things. And what I enjoy most is supporting school leaders and department heads through their most complex challenges while building preventative and robust systems. And I'm really excited to do that work here at Santa Barbara Unified to strengthen operations, reduce costs, and keep resources focused on classrooms and not courtrooms. I moved to Santa Barbara a year ago to be closer to family who are here with me tonight. And this is the community where my husband and I are raising our young son, Lori, being really quiet. And it's especially meaningful to step into this role in front of them and in front of all of you. I look forward to working closely with you in the weeks ahead. And thank you, Dr. Maldonado, for letting me introduce myself directly. And thank you for the opportunity. I'm excited to get started.
Thank you and welcome. Lastly, I'm excited to share some great upgrades happening at McKinley thanks to our arts funding. And we want to show you a video because we know that that is a little bit more impactful for you to see. the impact it's having in both their classroom and their auditorium.
The arts funding has really helped us invest in the arts here at McKinley. We've been able to have a dedicated art teacher for all of our students, really equipped our art room with all the essentials that she needs. And it also has helped us renovate this space to allow visual and performing arts for our students and also just a place for school community. We are very lucky at McKinley that we have our very own standalone auditorium. This is where we hold all of our student assemblies, parent events, and we hope that it could also be used for community as it becomes into the final stages of the renovation. We were able to replace all the curtains, and so we have really brand new state-of-the-art beautiful curtains that allows us to be able to have theater and visual performing arts up on stage. And it's also helped us renovate the flooring. This is a historic building, so we want to make sure we preserve it as much as we can. We're really excited that the arts funding has helped support that, and then this beautiful space will also, help enhance and showcase that.
So the arts dollars at work. And this is part of one of the grants we got that really is about improving some of our facilities. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Maldonado. So we're going to go to public comment for non-agenda matters within the jurisdiction of the Board of Education. And I want to remind us that we do have a time certain item at 6:45. And so if we get to 6:45 during the general public comment, we will take a pause. We will go to that item and then we'll come back to general public comment. Mr. Benning.
We have 6 comment cards. We'll let's see. All right, first will be Rich Lashua, followed by Sherry Ray and Moni DeWitt.
Good evening. The district is postponing its sunshine letter for an additional month before we can begin collective bargaining. At a glance, this promotes positivity and confidence, as if to say, things are going pretty well, and we should be able to start negotiations by December with plenty of time to wrap everything up for the next school year. Except things are not well. I've been up here for over 2.5 years reminding you of the crisis of our performing arts programs, particularly at the secondary level, where white flight and a lack of 7th period have completely hamstrung 2 of our 4 junior highs and threatened the livelihood of the other 2. Historically, we have usually had to submit any new courses created or bell schedule alterations by December for board approval so that counselors and administrators can get to work on the master schedules in the spring. Logically, if the district and the union aren't even coming to the table until December, I can only conclude one of 2 possibilities. Option 1, the district wants a 7th period. They're more than happy to fund it. The union's already on board, and any minute now, the camera crew and the folks with a big check will run in here to make me cry in public, and here I am just spoiling that pleasant surprise. Or option 2, there is no intention of making any changes whatsoever. I've been here over 40 times in the last 24 months with the exact same message, so I hope you'll pardon my pessimism. In that same 2.5-year span, we've narrowly saved the theater position at La Cumbre, failed to save the music and choir teachers at Santa Barbara Junior High, and witnessed a student-organized protest to save the theater program at Santa Barbara High School. The crisis is not coming, it's here. It's now. Giving kids access to arts programs is the ounce of prevention that is worth a pound of cure. We have the money. We're working with some of the top 15% tax revenue in the state, so maybe it's time to stop turning out our pockets when the community demands the restoration of arts programs, and instead look at why we're having such difficulty spending the free money that Prop 28 gives us. The answer is access. We need a new schedule that allows for arts programs to exist so that we can expend our free money on all of our kids. Let's go change the world.
Thank you. Sherry Ray, followed by Moni DeWitt and Alice Post.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you this evening. I'm Sherry Ray, the director of the Dyslexia Project and a longtime dyslexia advocate. October is Dyslexia Awareness Month. And a very good friend of mine, a brilliant dyslexic, Dr. Kathleen Boysen, maintained that there are 3 distinctive stages of dyslexia common to most of the 1 in 5 who are affected by this hereditary difference in the brain that is the source of many strengths, but often seen only for its challenges. First one is misery. The bright, curious child who enters kindergarten, excited about starting school and learning to read. For 1 in 5 children with dyslexia, that doesn't happen. And almost immediately that child and their peers equate reading struggles as being dumb. Number 2 is mystery. This is the period when parents desperately try to get help from too many in the education community who do not understand dyslexia and who are baffled about how to provide the research-proven intervention and instruction. Dr. Samuel Orton and Anna Gillingham conducted their important research in the 1930s, and their Orton-Gillingham approach remains the gold standard. And the third is mastery. Once a person with dyslexia is finally identified, which too often takes years, a logical course of interventions, accommodations, and appropriate instructional practices allows them to bloom, to reach their full potential and figure out their own personal workarounds that lead them to success, personally, academically, and professionally. I hope that the long-delayed introduction of state-mandated school screening for dyslexia in K through 2, and that this district committing to addressing it in every grade will eliminate those first 2 wholly unnecessary stages. Please commit to recognizing and supporting dyslexic strengths and allow these intelligent and creative individuals to flourish in the classroom from day 1 without the unnecessary misery and the too much mystery when there should be none. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Moni DeWitt, followed by Alice Post and Brianna Serrato.
Hello, board. Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Moni DeWitt. I'm a photographer, and in 2018, my friend and neighbor and sister dyslexia warrior mom, journalist Sherry Ray, teamed up to create the project titled Invisible, 1 in 5, the Face of Dyslexia. As a dyslexic, I'm attuned to the issues of dyslexia. It informs my work as a photographer, especially in this ongoing photojournalism project. Sherry's experience as a journalist and empathy for the dyslexic community elicits important insights. I'd like to invite you to view the photographic exhibit that will be at the Santa Barbara Central Library throughout the month of October, Dyslexia Awareness Month, and will be featured in Art Walk on first Thursday from 5 to 7. The purpose of the project is to make the invisible visible, to put a human face on dyslexia and share personal insights about it. Although it is so common, it is so misunderstood. The project is an effort to empower dyslexics, as well as to bring awareness, education, and empathy to the community largely unaware of dyslexia. What started in the photographer's studio has evolved into a project that showcases individuals in settings where they are comfortable, where they work and play, in Santa Barbara and far beyond. Subjects include individuals from all walks of life and an assortment of experiences in education and in life ranging from age 7 to 94. We have a paleontologist, an architect, an Olympic champion, a filmmaker, a chemistry professor, and many more. We are deeply grateful for the enthusiastic cooperation of so many children, adults, and families who have bravely, generously shared their stories and their very essence in allowing themselves to be photographed. The experience has been a profound one for the participants. For many, The power in facing the camera and telling their truth about dyslexia was a freeing experience and for others, a very emotional one. May the viewing public be moved and informed. Thank you.
Thank you. Alice Post, followed by Brianna Serrato and Kim Tilton.
Good evening, Superintendent Maldonado, members of the board. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. I'm going to use my time tonight to try to make greater awareness in the community of a group which I am a founder and an executive member of. It's the Coalition for Neighborhood Schools. So we have thought a lot about many issues, and there's a lot of content on our website. So the first part of my remarks are simply to let the viewing audience and the people here tonight know the name of our group, Coalition for Neighborhood Schools. Type it into Google, you'll find our website. And there's lots and lots of research and information that we've compiled about our district and its needs and its challenges. The second thing I want to speak about is who is our constituency? Our constituency, I may boldly assert, is every renter, a mother, a father, and every homeowner who lives in this map area, which is the city of Santa Barbara. It is the east side, the west side, what I call the center, which is like San Roque, San Marquand, Las Positas area, and what we call downtown, which is this colored area, which is all the center. So I'm thinking it's 30,000 houses in Santa Barbara. So we would boldly assert that we represent 30,000 homeowners and renters, particularly parents who have children and would like to send their children to a public school. And then why? Why do we exist? We exist because we believe that even though parents have many options, charter schools, private schools, homeschooling, or your public neighborhood school, we believe the neighborhood school is the very best option, better than all those
30
others.
seconds.
Better than charter schools, better than private school, better than homeschooling, and better than what we have now because we don't have neighborhood schools. The benefits are environmental, fitness, parental engagement, mental health, and financial benefits of reducing busing. Please go to our website. Please learn what we have studied and know. And please support neighborhood schools.
Thank you. We have Brianna Serrato, followed by Kim Tilton.
Somebody leave their glasses. Good evening. My name is Brianna Serrato, pronouns she, her, aya, and I am a SB Unified graduate and current parent to SB Unified 4th and 7th grade students. If you have not been on social media today, you may not have seen that the fake news being spewed by the president and the Secretary of State claiming that Tylenol or acetaminophen during pregnancy causes autism has countless mothers feeling guilty and thinking that they caused their child to have autism. For anyone that needs to hear this, this is not true and has been proven to not be true by actual scientists and true scientific studies. I say this because I have actual fellow mom friends that have taken this blame as to why they think their children have a hard time in our
neuronormative typical world right now. As a parent to neurodivergent children, one of which has an official autism diagnosis, I can attest that what our children and us caregivers need are for actual neuroaffirming support for them. At the school level, this is seen by having designated safe regulating spaces available at any point of the school day for all students, such as the Marigold Room at Washington and the Nest at Santa Barbara Junior High. It is educating all students about empathy and understanding for all students, including students with both visible and so-called invisible disabilities, such as autism. It is about having extra adult support on campus and in classrooms be the norm and not the exception, so that when a student needs a one-on-one paraeducator to assess their curriculum, they aren't felt as othered. Teaching all students how to distinguish news as fake, especially in the current age of social media and AI, is a lifetime support for the whole community. The news conference today is a real-world example as to the importance of teaching science and literacy, and not with our current regime of fascism and eugenics. Thank you.
Thank you. Kim Tilton.
Hi, good evening. I'm here to talk about math. Pretty passionate about math because I'm a scientist. And today was a tough day for me. I'm a TIP mentor, and I sat down. I'm mentoring a math teacher with math teachers, new ones and old, across the district. And we were talking about how things were going. And the news is that they're going pretty badly, which isn't shocking when you consider how abysmal our math data is. So when I'm sitting across a new colleague who I know to be an excellent new teacher, I see her every day there before school, every day after school, all lunch. She's working so hard. She's so good. I don't want to lose her, but I'm going to. I know I will, because you know what she told me? She cries every day. That's how frustrating her job is, because she was given an extended period time class with 30 plus kids, 12 have IEPs and 8 are EMLs. We are literally setting these people up to fail. And not just the teachers, but the students. We're going to sit here and say that we care about math. We're actually going to put money behind it. Extended time seats are expensive. And then you make your master schedules, and then you're not thinking about who's in that class. A kid who was already behind is now going to be put in a class with those kind of dynamics, and you think they're going to somehow make math improvements? It's craziness. Then you tell us that you care about EMLs and you care about special education students. Nothing about the stories that I heard today from my colleagues felt like care. It didn't feel strategic. It didn't feel efficient in terms of use of funds. Now you might think, well, maybe they're not telling anybody, but they have. They go to their administrators and say, I have these classes. How am I supposed to meet these needs? And they're not getting heard and going, hey, we need to sit down and we need to talk about this. We need to get everybody in the room and learn how to be more strategic. That's not the responses that they're getting. The community needs to know. Adopting curriculum is like the floor, the bottom. Oh, we have curriculum. Psh, my job as a district employee is done. That's not the hard part. The hard part is the teaching of the children, the master scheduling, the thinking about how we're going to meet their needs. And we're not asking teachers. And in the meantime, we're taking our newest, youngest teachers and putting them in the hardest classes because they're not older. They don't have the same weight with their admin. And I know I'm going to lose them. And so I attend these meetings. Luckily, TIP is paid. Most of the meetings I attend are not. I care a lot about our school district, and I feel like the room is on fire and nobody is looking. I sit across from my kids every day trying to teach them math, and they have so few skills. This is an emergency situation, and I don't want to go to another meeting where some new teacher tells me they cry every day.
Thank you. That's the last of the public comment.
Thank you. Now we will go to board comments and correspondence. So I'll turn it back to the board.
I'll go ahead. First of all, I want to thank our speakers tonight. As always, we appreciate hearing from you. I spent some time at back to school nights. I went to McKinley and saw the presentations about their dual language program and the pride that's going on there. Santa Barbara High School back to school night. Their marching band performed, and it was Old Home Week for me as a former music teacher. But even more than that, turns out that the fight song for Santa Barbara High School is exactly the same melody as the fight song for when I was in the high school band in San Clemente. I could have played the trumpet part, probably third trumpet. Also went to the back to school night for La Cuesta Alta Vista, and they tried something for the first time this year where they combined a back to school night with awards. And in the alternative programs, what a great idea. There was a great turnout of parents, and there were kids that were shy and didn't want to get up and do it. But that was then followed by some in-depth conversations about each of the alternative programs, and the community partners were there. So in the last couple of weeks, it's been, I think, 6 or 7 back to schools nights, and it's really a reaffirming chance to visit and see what's going on. And I've been very impressed with the community engagement by partners as well. I want to say thank you to the high school principals for being here tonight. The information on results-based leadership and the small tests of change around math were encouraging. I appreciated to have a chance to hear that. Particularly enjoyed the comment about the power of bringing the teachers together in the same room while they were all there doing the same thing. And so that falls right into our discussions about alignment and how important it is for us to be rowing in the same direction. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we go to other board members, we have our time certain item at 6:45, and we will go to E1, that is approval of resolution number 2025-26-10 in support of recognition of 2025 as the 150th anniversary of Santa Barbara High School. Dr. Maldonado.
Thank you. Welcome. And I see a lot of green and gold. Welcome everyone to this celebration of a remarkable milestone, 150 years of academic excellence at Santa Barbara High School. Santa Barbara High School has always been a leader, and its innovative spirit is stronger than ever. We're especially proud of the new interpretation translation pathway. That is a program that is first of its kind in the state, empowering our students with essential skills for the future. To tell us more, please welcome some key members of the Santa Barbara High community: Santa Barbara High School Principal Ed Gomez, a class of 97 Cuca Acosta, and UCSB Admissions Director. We can't let that go by. Board Director of the Santa Barbara High School Alumni Association as well. And Tally Richards Versola, class of 82, and President of the Santa Barbara High School Alumni Association. Welcome.
Good evening, board members, Superintendent Maldonado, thank you, and our community members as well. For over a century and a half, Santa Barbara High School has stood at the heart of our community. Between the mountains and the sea, it's the words of City of Santa Barbara, is it not? But it is fitting for our high school as well. Founded in 1875, it is one of California's oldest public high schools. Before moving to its current location at 700 East Anapamu Street in 1924, the school occupied 3 earlier sites. That's a good trivia quiz for anyone who wants to work on that. It's grown along with the city of Santa Barbara. Today, it's the cornerstone building that holds an official historic landmark status, a reminder of how deeply our school is woven into Santa Barbara's history. The Don's legacy is deep, it's rich, and it's enduring. Programs like The Forge, which I was editor-in-chief, I just want to know that. There we go. Our student newspaper, Olive and Gold, our yearbook, they've been published for over a century. They chronicle generations of students, their voices, our history, in the city of Santa Barbara. For many families, Don's pride runs deep, some spanning 6 to 7 generations and reflecting the power and the sense of community and continuity. This multi-generational tradition is part of what makes Santa Barbara High that great place for us to call home. In classrooms and beyond, alumni have become scientists, authors, professionals, athletes, public servants, leaders who have shaped not just our county, not just our community here, but the state and the world. Our Alumni Association was founded over 50 years ago during our campus centennial celebration. And for those of you who need to do the math, that was 1975. It carries forward a tradition for us. We are volunteers. We're a nonprofit dedicated to connecting our past, our present, and our future dons. In just the last 5 years alone, our Alumni Association has awarded more than $1.2 million in scholarships to our graduating seniors so that they can continue their education. We also fund classroom projects, support campus beautification, celebrate our distinguished alumni, our Wall of Fame, inductees, and more. Most importantly, we ensure that every generation of Dons has access and opportunity to resources so that they can continue the pride that is Santa Barbara.
Good evening. So today, Santa Barbara High School today continues to pursue academic excellence. We have our 3 academies, 2 of them California Partnership Academies. Students have the opportunity to take a variety of AP courses and dual enrollment, as well as get involved in our performing arts programs, choral music, dance, marching band, theater, stage production are all some of the opportunities that our students enjoy today. In our pathways, we have 7 career tech pathways, the 3 aforementioned academies, plus our construction tech, sports medicine, culinary arts, and as Dr. Maldonado mentioned, our Translation and Interpretation Academy, which empowers our multilingual students to transform their skills to professional opportunities. Our stellar athletic program is still going strong. We offer 25 sports, 58 levels of competition. Last year, we had 4 academic CIF championships alone, tops in the Southern section. I must give credit also to our neighboring San Marcos Royals, also had 4. So here in our unified school district, we had 8 academic CIF championships, tops in the Southern section. So that's Santa Barbara High today. The future is bright. We have, as you can see, we start recruiting young. We bring them on board. And the programs that we grow today are going to develop our future leaders, creators, and change makers. But as I mentioned at Back to School Night, what makes Santa Barbara High School unique is not just the programs, it's the people. I've been there 3 years and I've been welcomed warmly into the Dons family. You know, I'm proud to say I'm the principal of a high school that I would send my own children to. And just by my own tally right now, we have 20% of our certificated staff either have a child attending Santa Barbara High or who graduated from Santa Barbara High. So as Ms. Acosta stated, our roots run deep. And so I'm very proud and honored to be the principal of Santa Barbara High School. And I'm going to turn it back over to our, speaking of principals and families, our Alumni Association president. Or excuse me.
It's my little granddaughter there. Finally, thank you. Finally, we invite all of you to join us at the All Dons reunion on October 11th, whether you are a proud Don yourself or a Don adjacent. You are part of this community and we would love to celebrate with you. Thank you to our school board. Thank you. Superintendent and district office for giving us the opportunity to honor 150 years of Santa Barbara High School's storied history. Your recognition through this resolution is more than a commemoration. It is a tribute to the generations of Dons who have shaped our community and a promise to those who will carry the tradition forward. On behalf of all past, present, and future Dons, we thank you for celebrating this legacy and inspiring us to keep the Don spirit alive for generations to come. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Board members, before you is an action item, which is the approval of the resolution in support of the recognition of the 150th anniversary of Santa Barbara High School. And for those of you that are here, we do have a resolution for you, which the board will first read, then we'll take a vote, and then we hope to take some pictures with you.
All right, I'll get us started. Whereas Santa Barbara High School, beacon of educational excellence in our community, will celebrate its 150th anniversary on this day, and
Whereas the school's enduring motto, "Once a Don, always a Don," symbolizes a deep-rooted and lasting commitment to its students, alumni, and the city of Santa Barbara, and
Whereas Santa Barbara High School has consistently provided high-quality academic and athletic programs shaping generations of accomplished individuals, including renowned artists, musicians, scientists, politicians, All-Americans, Olympians, and professional athletes. And
whereas the school has a history of innovation, including publishing The Forge, the second oldest continuously operating high school newspaper in California since 1914, and establishing the district's first interpretation/translation pathway, and
whereas the school continues to lead in career and technical education with innovative programs such as the Computer Science Academy, Multimedia Arts and Design, MAD Academy, and Visual Arts and Design Academy, VADA, preparing students for future success. And
whereas the Santa Barbara Unified School District wishes to acknowledge and honor the contributions of Santa Barbara High School students, faculty, staff, alumni, and the entire community.
Now therefore be it resolved that the Santa Barbara Unified School District on this 23rd day of September 2025 proudly recognizes and celebrates the 150th anniversary of Santa Barbara High School, commending this remarkable legacy of academic excellence, leadership, and community impact. Thank you, board members. Before we take a vote, I am remiss at recognizing in the public our former school board member, Annette Cordero, who is also a Don, and we want to take a moment to thank you for your service as well. So thank you, Annette, for being here. So at this point, you can take a vote.
all right. And I'll turn it back to the board. Do we have a motion?
I move to approve the resolution 2025-26-10 in support of the recognition of 2025 as the 150th anniversary of Santa Barbara High School.
I second. Go Dons.
We have a first and a second. Any comments? Nope. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously.
Right here. Are you guys staying up there? Or are you gonna come down? Stay up there, yeah. Then if you guys, you can stand, yeah.
Tally.
Can you guys move over this way a little bit? Just be a little closer. Yeah. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And one more request. If you are a Don, can you come up front too and for the picture? John, that includes you. You're a Don, come in front.
John, can you guys come around because you're getting the projector right on your face? That or up on top on the dais board? Yeah, somewhere just to get. Yeah. Ready? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Thank you, everyone.
All right. We will now turn it back to the board for board comments and correspondence. Dr. Beal and then Ms. Munoz.
This is just a short announcement. Board member Celeste Caffrey and I will be hosting another coffee. We'll be meeting on October 4th. Is that a Saturday or Sunday? A Saturday, October 4th from 10 to noon in Tucker's Grove Park. We met before and that probably will be our regular space. Everybody and all are invited.
Thank you. Ms. Munoz and then Ms. Caffrey.
Yes, just a short also comment. I had the pleasure of going to the back to school night at with Alta Vista and let me see, La Cuesta, Quetzal, and help me out here. Middle College. I also accompanied Mr. Banning. And then I was able to be in a classroom of Quetzal and had a pleasure of seeing the great presentation by the teachers and meeting two of the students that, as Mr. Banning said earlier, received awards. Recognizing an alternative school like this that really gives opportunity to students who just feel like they didn't fit into a larger high school and such, and just seeing them, you know, on the path to them making progress and on their path for their future. So thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Caffrey.
Since our last board meeting, I've continued to connect with our school community. So I attended Monroe's back to school night with Trustee Beal, and I also visited Adelante and Santa Barbara Charter School yesterday. So now that means I'm the newest board member. I've visited all of our schools, all of the schools in our district, and my goal is to attend at least one event at every school this year, so that I can stay grounded in the day-to-day experiences of our students, teachers, and families. I've also started reaching out to nonprofits and foundations that support our district. There's so many, so it's going to take time, but I look forward to getting to know all of our partners and all the work that you do and how you help us provide rich and varied experiences for our students. And then I'll just echo Trustee Beal in the invitation to join us for coffee and conversation. We really enjoyed the last one. I think we had more than 60 people come, and it was just great for us to meet you. I think many people connected with each other, and I'm building my email list, so I'm sending out emails to those of you I have, but please feel free to invite others. And thank you.
Thank you. I have a brief update. So since the last board meeting, I attended the Santa Barbara Junior High and the Goleta Valley Junior High back to school nights. I also attended the mock trial tryouts. Try saying that even once, at Dos Pueblos. And I was wildly impressed by these students. I wish I had done mock trial. Thank you to Ms. Kreshock for hosting me. And thank you to the principals tonight for demonstrating, I think, the power of a small test of change. and really testing it out to see what are the benefits, does it work, before overly investing as a school district. And I think really modeling the growth mindset that we challenge our students to also demonstrate every day. Welcome to Mrs. Powell as our first in-house general counsel. I got to say, I was a part of her interview, and I think she's going to do an amazing job at building capacity at our school district, serving our students, especially in this really uncertain time with the federal administration that is testing school districts in ways that I don't even think we comprehended at the beginning of this year. And then finally, recently, we just got an update from the City Housing Authority about the Parma School project on the east side. And in a board meeting at some time in the near future, we're going to bring them in to give you a more comprehensive update. But we did get to see a great project management graph that demonstrated all of the remaining milestones. And if everything goes perfectly, which it will not, we will break ground next fall. And so there's a lot of process to get there, but I am hopeful that under the leadership of the Housing Authority. And just as a reminder to folks, this was no financial input other than the land from the school district. And so this is actually a really big thing to get to this place in this project with this partner. I have full faith, and I'm hopeful that we will break ground next fall. And that's my update. So that closes out board comments and correspondence. And takes us to E2, approval of second reading, sunshining of Santa Barbara Teacher Association to reopen contract negotiations with Santa Barbara Unified School District. And we have Dr. Becchio.
Thank you. Good evening, Board President Escobedo, board members, Superintendent Maldonado. Before you is the action item to approve the initial proposal, sunshine proposal by SBTA and their intention to bargain the reopeners for the contract negotiations coming up.
Thank you. And so similar to last time, there's a comment that I'm going to give on behalf of the board. And really, it's to say this, it's that we heard you and that we heard the concerns raised by SBTA. And we believe that we can still meet our original intention behind sunshining on October 28th. And that was to move forward thoughtfully, grounded in clarity and a collective understanding, while making an adjustment to better support participation and really demonstrate our hope is good faith bargaining. And so with input still and articles still being in development, we will now bring our sunshine letter forward on October 14th. This still means a tight turnaround, but we're committed in doing it. We have also worked to establish calendar dates, and those will be sent to the SBTA president and I believe the negotiating chair of the negotiating team, or just the SBTA president. With the earliest date availability set is in October. So we still have got to coordinate schedules, but we are looking to get started as soon as possible. And there's nothing that precludes us from coordinating dates even before we sunshine our letters. And at the same time, I do also want to echo much of the sentiment that we had in the previous statement, and that is to say that we will need critical fiscal information, including updated property tax revenues in November and our first interim budget in December before making commitments on proposals that carry financial costs. That is essential to being transparent and ensuring that any agreement is sustainable for the long term. Our hope is that this is an adjustment that demonstrates our willingness to listen and to respond when possible, while also creating the best conditions for productive negotiations. By working collaboratively with our union partners, we believe we can reach agreements that support our educators and staff, but ultimately center the success of our students here at Santa Barbara Unified. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Banning for public comment.
We have two speaker cards, Ashley Cornelius and York Shingle.
There we go. All right. I'm Ashley Cornelius. I'm the Santa Barbara Teachers Association bargaining chair.
And I'm really excited that I get to skip over so much of my public comment. And I just want to emphasize that I also agree that by giving us the time to be able to work more in November and maybe even the end of October, that we are going to be able to work through a lot of the issues that my members have been bringing to us and that we've been working on. And I am excited to be working collaboratively with you guys. So thank you very much.
Thank you. York Shingle.
Good evening, Board. I'm York Shingle, SBTA President and Superintendent Dr. Maldonado and Cabinet. I didn't even have to bring my speech up. I had a whole thing written about how I'm a difficult person and I have to keep harping on this, that, and the other, and I don't need to say any of that. All I need to say is thank you. I really appreciate it. It is going to take a lot of back and forth. We absolutely want to be fiscally responsible, so we appreciate you hearing us. We appreciate your flexibility, and I will get back to that meeting request. Thank you.
Thank you. That's it.
So with that, I will turn it back to the board. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the Santa Barbara Teachers Association articles to reopen contract negotiations with the Santa Barbara Unified School District.
Do I have a second?
I second.
We have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. So that closes out E2 and that takes us to E3. That is approval of the annual report of teacher assignments and resolution number 2025-26-09. We have Miss P coming up. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Board President Escobedo, Board of Education, and Superintendent Dr. Maldonado. The item you have before you is the annual report of teacher assignments. The Commission on Teacher Credentialing allows for teachers to teach outside their main credential if they meet the requirements of various education codes and Title V regs. These are known as local assignment options. After a thorough review of the school's master schedules, it's determined that various teachers can teach under the Education Code or Title V regulation as described in this memo. Please note, these educators also bring both experience and expertise in their subject areas. These education codes or Title V regulations also allow for schools to have some flexibility to assign their certified staff in the master schedules. We are asking that you approve as an action item the annual report of teacher assignments and resolution number 2025-26-09 for the 25-26 school year. Thank you.
Thank you. Any public comment for this item? Do we have any questions from the board? Any comments? Do I have a motion? Ms. Caffrey.
I motion to approve the annual report of teacher assignments and resolution number 2025-2609.
Do we have a second?
I second the motion.
We have a first and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous.
you.
And that closes out E3. Thank you, Ms. P. Do we want to, we have a big item for the next one. Do we want to take a break now or after that item? After? Okay, so then we are going to move to our first report, F1, Tier 2 and 3 Literacy Interventions. And who do we have?
We have the whole Ed Services team, or is Dr. Wilson, will that be you? Dr. Hughes? Dr. Hugh will be giving us this item. Welcome. Thank you.
Welcome.
Good evening. I'm here with the rest of Ed Services and Student Family Services. We are here to present tonight on reading interventions for our literacy programs. One of the things that we want to emphasize is, so tonight we're going to be talking about our Tier 2 reading interventions. One of the things that we want to emphasize is that our intervention programs are part of the larger system. And that system is our MTSS system that starts with our instructional core. So in the middle, our students, teachers, content, and standards, and then all of the wraparound supports that we provide there. We're going to be talking about that, and we're also going to be talking about reading interventions for students with dyslexic characteristics, because we understand that that is a concern, and a lot of questions have been raised about that. We want to make sure that we are providing some insight in about what we do in our district to support students there. So our multi-tiered systems of supports for literacy really starts here with our triangle. This is something that many of you are familiar with, and it starts with our tier 1 program at the bottom, which is for all students. That is our core instructional program. We want to make sure that everything is based on that foundation of a strong, consistent tier 1 program for all of our students. And then from there, we move up to tier 2 and tier 3 to provide supports that are appropriate and targeted toward the students as they need them. So the different elements of our multi-tiered system of support are listed there for you. An impactful assessment system so that we are basing our information and our decisions on data that we have on all of our students. Effective and equitable tiered supports for our students that are appropriate and targeted toward their needs. Targeted professional learning so that our staff are provided with the expertise that they need to help students and support them in their areas, as well as strategic teaming and PLCs, again, to feed into that tier 1 program and provide that strong, consistent support and core instruction. And then a collaborative improvement cycle, because we always want to make sure that we are focusing on that continuous improvement, looking at data and feeding that back into our system to make adjustments as necessary. So our first element, that impactful assessment system. Assessments serve multiple purposes. So I want to start with what's on the left there with the screener. Our screeners are there to help us identify risks and areas for additional support. So new this year is our M-Class, our universal screener for our youngest students. We also have DIBELS and STAR reading assessment for our older students. And then we move from our screeners. Once we have that information, we move into the progress monitoring. And so that is where you see multiple assessments starting to take place here. So in addition to the M-Class, we also have Lexia Power Up as one of the additional pieces that we use for progress monitoring of our students. And then again, DIBELS and STAR assessments, as those are given multiple times throughout the year. And then at the very end, we have our summative or outcome data, which really allows us to look back at the whole system and look at overall system performance. How are we doing at providing that system of support to all of our students at all of their various levels based on the needs that we have identified for each student? And are we moving forward? And that is our opportunity to take a step back, reflect, and look at any adjustments that need to be made programmatically as a system. So this is a process map that shows how we move from screening to progress monitoring to the summative. At the very top left corner, you see the testing window closes. So that's the first thing, is we administer the assessments and we gather that data for all of our students. So this is where we are for our elementary students. Our M-Class window closed today, I believe. And so that is where we're gathering all of that data. For our secondary students, the window closed about a week and a half ago. And so we're starting to move through the rest of this process map. So once we have the data from those assessments, we're now starting to take a look at that data in teacher teams, school teams, and as a district to then determine those next steps. And then we move from there into identifying who needs additional support and then what kind of additional support do they need. We communicate with our families, we talk to our teachers and identify what the appropriate next steps are for the students. And then we move through that system to implement any additional interventions that need to take place as appropriate based on what our data is telling us. So our elementary schools are sort of toward the beginning of that process map because that window just closed. So they're going to start looking at the data. Our secondary schools are in the further part of the process map. They are now in the process of looking at that data, identifying students, and starting to put into place those interventions. And this is an ongoing process that happens throughout the year. So once we've identified the data and started to look at those next steps, then we move into that effective and equitable tiered supports. Again, keeping in mind that our interventions and supports are part of that larger system, and that system is built on that strong foundation, that strong, consistent tier 1 core curriculum. So we're going to start there, and then from there, we look at what our data tells us from our screeners, from our progress monitoring, allows us to make some adjustments as necessary throughout the progress monitoring throughout the school year. And then we are looking at what interventions we can put in place. Our interventions are evidence-based. They are based on data, and they are responsive to the specific needs of students. So it's not a one-size-fits-all. We look at what the data tells us about what the individual student needs, and then assign interventions as appropriate for that student. We also want to make sure that we have considered equity and access, so making sure that our students have opportunities to access the interventions within the school day, outside of the school day, however it is that the student is able to access it. We want to make sure that we're providing opportunities there. And so our schools are working with the students and families to offer as many opportunities for students to access interventions so that they are receiving the support that they need. And then again, pulling back a little bit to what is that system and that collaboration. So how are we providing that within our school day for our teachers to collaborate, identify those interventions, work together, and most importantly, make sure that we are continuing to communicate with our families and keep them as a partner in this work of supporting our students. Again, with our interventions, it's not just about making sure that we provide the curriculum. You can see some of the curriculum that we have for our interventions. It's on the right, 3 different programs within Lexia. English language development. So Lexia English is for our ALD classes and our emergent multilingual learners. Alexia Core is for our younger students, and then Lexia Power Up we use from upper elementary through high school students. So our intervention programs are based not only on the programs that we use and the curriculum that we use, but they are also very much rooted in the people that we have who are helping us to provide those interventions, starting with our teachers and instructional coaches who are providing that expert instruction, their expertise, their content expertise, our curriculum specialists and paraprofessionals, classroom volunteers, and retired teachers who are all working with students individually and in small groups and helping us to make sure that we are providing that access to students and that additional support as they need it. And so this allows us, through our people and our programs, allows us to really make sure that we are serving students in terms of the interventions that they need as appropriate for the skills that they need to continue to develop. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Denise.
Dr. Hughes spoke about the resources such as people and resources and materials that we use, but it's also important to provide that professional learning for our teachers. This is a list of the various target professional learning we provide for our teachers so that they can provide intervention. This list doesn't include our curriculum, professional learning that we provide for our adopted curriculum. And these are the main areas that main professional learning that we provide for intervention. And you'll see that we have multiple grade levels here. 1 through 4 is very specific to utilizing specific curriculum. Number 5 is for strategies that could be used, not necessarily as much as of a curriculum as the other ones above. And we also have student achievement partners, which is new this year, to improve reading for secondary students. And what you all heard earlier about what we're engaging in for cohort 1 last year and cohort 2 for results-based leadership. All of this is to develop the capacity of our teachers as well as our leaders so that they can provide that support that is needed in terms of providing the intervention, but also analyzing the data. SB Unified engages in PLCs across the district. And you will hear us throughout the year speak about district-wide PLCs as well as site-level PLCs. At the district PLC level, we meet multiple times a year. The focus is on the board priorities on ELA and math, use curriculum-based data, And it's supported by district leadership at those levels, as well as district and site leadership. We use feedback to refine our future sessions and our future work throughout this process. Site-based PLCs meet regularly as well. They focus on individual students and led by PLC leads at the sites, and it's supported by the site leadership mainly and coaches in elementary school as well. This entire process is guided by Richard DeForest's essential PLC questions that you'll see on in the circle here on the right-hand side. He's a pioneer, researcher, and educator who transformed the way in which teachers collaborate and in the data analysis that we use to inform our instruction and make changes and interventions as we move throughout the year. Questions that we ask ourselves through the PLC process is, what should students know and be able to do? How will we assess progress towards mastery with the assessments that were mentioned earlier? How will we respond when students struggle? And how will we respond when students excel? So we do provide intervention for students who need that support, but we also know that there are students who are meeting or exceeding standards as well, and we need to be able to support them as well. I'm going to take you to a little deeper into what we have been doing in elementary. I want to take you down this road because interventions don't just happen overnight, and the support that we provide takes time. In order for us to provide a strong intervention system, we need to have a strong tier 1. Strong tier 1 happens in the classroom every single day. If we don't have a strong tier 1, then it's going to, then our tier 2 and tier 3 is going to be significantly large, and it will be very difficult for us to support our students across the board, because then we're going to be continually supporting with intervention and not really providing that tier 1 instruction that should happen first. In elementary, 22-23 is when we adopted our language arts curriculum. Then we moved on. 23-24 was our year 1 of implementation. We learned a lot through that process. We provided support. We went through a lot of challenges and also lots of successes and some growth and productive struggle, like we like to call it, both for students and productive struggle for the teachers. In 24-25, we started year 2 of implementation. We introduced the pacing guides and assessment guides, which is what we use now across all elementary schools. We know what's happening during trimester 1, 2, and 3, which assessments are being introduced. Are we on track? No, there are times in which it is difficult to stay on track with that pacing guide. So our school sites and coaches and principals work with our teachers to determine what needs the teachers have as well to be able to stay on track with the pacing guide and assessment guide. We had 2 types of assessment screeners last year that we utilized for the first time here in Santa Barbara Unified. And last year, for the first time across the state of California, every school district was asked to adopt a universal screener K2, which we engaged in and we adopted last year. This year, actually today was the deadline for the first screener, for the first round of screeners, and the window closed today. We will be analyzing that data as a district. I will be analyzing that data. Principals will be analyzing it by site, and then teachers will be looking at their classroom data and individual students. This is what's happening now in the red square here. Year 3 of implementation. We continue to use our screeners, and our focus is moving from not just screening, but also strengthening our intervention systems. And our goal for 26-27 is to get even better at that, but continue and not forget about the tier 1 instruction. Elementary intervention happens during the day and after school. During the school day, we have Power Hour. You have heard us speak about Power Hour throughout the years. And last year was the first year in which every single school committed to doing Power Hour, which is the intervention time that happens during the day. We start by using screening data. This year is M-Class. The other ones we've had in the past. Step 2, creating small group instruction or regroup students 2 to 3 times a year to make sure that we have those flexible groupings happening. Step 3, target instruction based on these areas to support literacy. Step 4, monitor our progress and make sure that we adjust the supports as needed for individual students. And lastly, student growth. That's our goal, to ensure that through this process, we are able to support students in the tier 2 area and make sure that we have positive outcomes for all of our students. Lastly, in elementary, we have the after-school intervention. It's a rotation model. We have 3 rotations in which is teacher directed or teacher guided. And it is focused on providing feedback directly to the students and providing that scaffold necessary to support the student. Rotation 2 is structured independent work. Work is selected by the teacher based on the data that the student has created through their assessments or the results. And lastly, the digital platform, which is an adaptive platform that allows students to practice on their literacy skills and those specific skills that they need or that they need more support. Below is the targeted instruction for Lexia Core 5. As Dr. Hugh mentioned earlier, Lexia Core 5 is for the main areas of reading or literacy, and Lexia English is to support our English learners.
Thank you. So when it comes to secondary interventions, take a slightly different pace, because we need to move faster to get students to where they need to be in order to access the curriculum. If they are weak in reading or they're struggling with reading, that's going to impact how they are able to access social studies and science and math and every other content area. And as you've heard many times, back to school nights and from teachers as well, time is an issue when it comes to secondary. They have very limited time because they have 6 classes, 7 classes, 8 classes that they need to get to. And so when it comes to how we implement our interventions in secondary, we start at the very same point of identifying our students and what their needs are. How do we target those needs? And then when we move into that targeted intervention, we really are looking to be strategic and quick about it. So we want to provide a high effective dose of whatever the intervention is that they need, whether it's word fluency or grammar or reading comprehension, and build their skills in that area, see the growth by measuring it through our progress monitoring. And then we want to be able to exit them so that they can go off and be in their science class and do their CTE classes and all of those other content areas that we want them to be able to access with their more robust skills in reading strategies. So some of the ways that we do that at the secondary level are through specialized classes, some short-term within the school day and small group rotations. Sometimes some teachers are able to do that within their ELA class, for example. At our high schools, we have Royal Time, Golden Hour, Golden Time. I think I got all those names right. Still learning. But that is often an area where our high schools can use that time in a very targeted way to bring in students, provide that high dose, short-term intervention, and then build their skill set and then move them on. So those are some of the ways that they are doing that. They can also do that before and after school according to the needs of the student and what they are able to access and when they're able to access it. Once they get through that point and they've kind of moved, if they're still not able to see the growth that we want to see, and they're starting to move into what we would identify as a tier 3, that is when we really start looking at other options for them. And often that might be through for students with IEPs. And so Dr. Carla Curry is here to talk about what that would look like for our students with IEPs.
All right. So literacy interventions for students with with reading difficulties. Characteristics of dyslexia overlap. Typically with language-based learning disabilities, that might look like difficulty learning new vocabulary, difficulty with reading comprehension, even when they can read words, problems with spelling and grammar, and problems with memory and retaining information. The science of reading instruction is effective for both. So with the science of reading instruction, you have phonemic awareness, fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension that are incorporated into that instruction. Students with dyslexia characteristics and language-based difficulties are eligible for special education, typically under specific learning disability. We have 1,866 students with IEPs in Santa Barbara Unified. Of those 1,866, 706 are eligible with a specific learning disability, and 95% of those students qualify for specialized academic instruction in reading. So the literacy intervention for students with disabilities who have reading difficulties is the Wilson Reading System. The Wilson Reading System is an intensive intervention program based on phonological coding and research and Orton Gillingham principles for students grades 2 through 12 that addresses the foundational skills required to read and write. The components of the Wilson Reading System are in the blue box. And as teachers implement those components, they pace students through curriculum based on mastery of skills, understanding of language concepts, and the ability to apply skills and concepts to connected text with accuracy, fluency, and understanding. Along the way, students learn to monitor their own decoding accuracy and comprehension. So a lot of work has gone into the professional development for teachers to intervene with students with reading difficulties. During the 24-25 school year, 24 elementary mild to moderate support needs teachers and secondary literacy teachers participated in the Wilson Reading Introductory Course, 24 teachers last year. That was a 3-day professional development opportunity. In addition, for newly hired teachers, we had 2 this year. They complete a self-paced 3-day Wilson Reading Introductory Course to ensure consistency of trained staff across the district. In order to support the ongoing implementation, monthly Wilson Reading PLC meetings are held every month, facilitated by the Wilson Reading Literacy Specialist. That began last January of 2025 and will continue through the 25-26 school year. We have 2 PLCs, one for the elementary band and one for the secondary band. And each month they meet for an hour with the Wilson Literacy Specialist for support, collaboration, and also to support implementation of the Wilson Reading System. We're really excited to announce this year that the district is also offering a Wilson Reading Practicum on a volunteer basis. So for this school year, 4 teachers, 3 elementary and 1 secondary will complete the practicum, which requires 155 plus hours of intensive training. Successful completion of the practicum allows participants to represent themselves as Wilson Reading Level 1 certified and earn recognition as a Wilson dyslexia practitioner. The district was provided 4 complimentary practicum slots by Wilson for the 25-26 school year. And to further strengthen our secondary literacy instruction, a secondary special education literacy PLC lead started last January to support secondary literacy teachers in planning and implementation of the Wilson Reading System. And also our Wilson Reading Literacy PLC lead will be participating in the practicum opportunity this school year, and that will help to build capacity for professional expertise within our district.
So tonight you got a little bit of an overview of our interventions within our larger system of support for literacy across the district. These are some of the next steps that we see as we're starting this work. So keeping in mind this is September, we've done some assessments, so we're looking at the data and analyzing it as we move into looking at what interventions need to be in place and then implementing those as we continue to build our strong core Tier 1 program. And then some additional next steps that we have around using our community partners and really continuing to coordinate those partnerships and reach out and work with our community to continue to provide additional supports for our students. Some professional learning plans that we have in place for as we move throughout the school year. And then, tonight's focus was on literacy. So we also have some similar thoughts around intervention planning and interventions for mathematics, and we will be looking to bring those to you in November. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Yu. Mr. Benny, do we have public comment for this item?
We do. Brianna Serrato and York Shingle.
Hello again. I'm really hoping that since this is an agenda item that lists literacy interventions for tier 1, 2, and 3, and also goes into the details pertaining to EML and special education students, that the literacy related questions that I've asked numerous times at board meetings over the last year are finally answered. But first, I'll start with the new question. Why do 3 of the 4 junior highs not have a designated tutorial period, i.e. flex time at Santa Barbara Junior High? The memo states this time is used to assign identified students to targeted intervention support classes with Lexia Power Up for the teacher-delivered curriculum, as well as for the learning platform. As I mentioned earlier tonight, having systems in place that don't have special education students to feel as othered, such as only providing push-in services or missing an elective class to do intensive intervention, is a support that is needed at all sites. If the issue is timing, here is yet another reason to go back to a 7-period school day at the junior highs. From February 25th, is there district oversight as to which students are selected for the after-school tutoring? At our school site council meetings, we were told by the principal that the initial group selected for tutoring were those considered bubble students that were almost to the standard benchmark, and so that's why they are being selected. If tier 3 students are those that are at the farthest behind academically, especially in ELA since that affects most of their academics, why are they not being offered the most amount of services? As an example, if a 3rd grader is at a kinder reading level despite SAI time, are they just considered to be a lost cause and therefore not included in after-school tutoring? So is the service simply to make school scores look better by targeting those bubble students? From March 11th, I am asking the district to provide after-school tutoring for the Tier 3 plus, aka students with IEPs, students in both ELA and math, especially if they're making little to no gains in these categories despite having SAI pullout time that is working on ELA and or math goals. If it is obvious that they are not getting their needs met despite these interventions, why would they not be offered these additional supports so they don't fall farther behind than their Gen Ed only peers? From August 5th, while the 8-page memo goes into detail about the SST referral process and mentions tiers 1 through 3, it does not mention tier 3 plus, aka special education. I later give specific stats to how they pertain to my student. Yet when I brought up these concerns to Principal Galindo, she told me not to focus on test scores, but his IEP goals. I continually asked for tutoring, but was given different answers by the principal and district admins as to whether students had IEP goals related to tutoring services if they qualified for tutoring. So what is the district doing to ensure that the special education students that have the cognitive ability are given the chance every day to be able to become confident, successful readers at every school?
20 seconds.
From August 19th, can the district officially confirm if students with IEPs, aka Tier 3 plus, that have a literacy-related goal in their IEP qualify for this tutoring as well? As I've brought up to the board before, I have received conflicting information on this from the Roosevelt principal and district cabinet members. Please prioritize ensuring that this is clearly outlined in board policies so that there is no confusion or missed services if these students do not qualify for after-school tutoring. So again, how many months later? Same questions. Thank you.
Thank you. York Shingle.
Good evening. I am York Shingle, SBTA president. We need a better system because this is too much stuff. As a former MTSS who supported this work in English and Spanish at McKinley, we are over-assessing our students. What does STAR tell us that M-Class doesn't? Why are we making our students take test after test after test? And I'll add that at McKinley, the kids have to take twice as many tests because instead of being strategic about what we assess and when and in what language, we were told always assess in both languages. That's twice as many tests. That's a lot less learning and relationship building that gets to happen. And the intervention responses are just as challenging. There were 7 targeted professional learning items listed. That's a long list and not very targeted. We need focused and consistent responses to intervention. Additionally, we told teachers that they would be supported in administering M-Class, that they would get sub time to administer that. That's only happening at a few sites. We love to talk about future supports in this district and what will be available, but then the follow through ends up landing on teachers, letting me know it's not happening. That's not effective. We want to make sure that these systems are effective and supportive for our students and our staff. So as you develop these assessment and intervention systems, please identify what data you are specifically trying to get from each assessment at which point in the year. So maybe we can spend more time supporting our students instead of assessing them. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I'll turn it back to the board for questions. Ms. Caffrey.
So thank you very much for that presentation. I think that the board has been very interested in hearing about our assessments, interventions, and especially tier 2 intervention. I think special ed, is that going to come up in a future board meeting? Is that correct? Like more of a, or are special ed questions also happening today? Oh, okay.
The presentation that Ms. Curry just spoke to addresses the special education interventions.
Thank you. Okay. I just wasn't clear if it was going to be more in depth at a later date. So my question is basically, do we have data that shows these interventions are working at the school site level that can be shared with the board?
Denise, excuse me, so Denise, Ms. Caffrey. I was looking at Denise when I was trying to talk to you. Got a little, we have a student outcomes report that's coming to the board later in the year. I believe it's in October, November. And that will give us an overall picture of what the scores have been. Then we have a second report in the second half of the school year. If the board wishes, as a board, to have us bring assessment results for the tier interventions, we can add that to our report. But right now, we're focused on bringing the tier 1 assessments data outcomes report in the fall and a second one in the spring.
And perhaps this kind of goes into a comment, but that it is hard to assess, if our interventions are working without any data. And so maybe this is more of a governance question, as we think about, we've interviewed governance coaches. How do we monitor progress in our district? What data allows us to see if the different interventions that we are using are actually moving the needle for kids? So I think that is one question I think we can keep in mind. This is not directed towards ed services. It's more board governance. And basically, I think we are trying to get towards to a place where we're spending 50% of our time looking at student outcomes. And right now at this board meeting, we're at 0. So we don't, well, we don't have any specific data on how our kids are doing. So, yeah. So
I'm
anyway,
gonna get in a back and forth. Can you ask your questions, please?
yeah. I'm just saying, basically, it's
Ask your questions, please.
okay. So I guess I'll start by asking, I heard the question from Mr. Shingle about assessments, and I'm wondering about how we decide on how many assessments we do. And also for secondary students, if the assessments that we're doing get to whether they have the foundational reading skills that they need.
I'm glad you asked that question. Last year, we engaged in both elementary and secondary in looking at all the assessments that we were utilizing across the district. And it was through teams from all schools were represented, and we analyzed what assessments we were using and started reducing. Exactly what Mr. York mentioned is, if we use this data, we use this assessment and this one too, which one do we really need to use? Which one is extra? And so we are condensing our assessments to ensure that when we utilize them, that it is, if it's measuring the same thing or we're getting the same type of outcome data, that we are not using 2 of the same. And so we are working towards that. A lot of that work happened last year. Teachers were involved. MTSS last year were involved as well in this process, assistant principals in district team as well. The other piece too, with McKinley is a dual language immersion school, and we do have assessments in which we will need to assess for an example for this year for M-Class. They were asked to assess only in one language for the first round. So we have been strategic in the way in which we mention, and that information was provided to the principals, specifically to the teachers and the principal at McKinley, about how we assess. And we looked at, we work with Dr. Martinez, who supports Emergent Multilinguals, as well as our DLI program, to make those decisions, as well as recommendations from the state level.
Can I just have also, Sandra, if you can show slide 4, because that shows the assessments, the number. And did you want to add something, Dr. Wilson?
So I do want to acknowledge the questions regarding assessments, because this is a critical piece to this whole puzzle. One, it helps us measure where students are currently at, but then also it helps us measure how they're doing in between. So as Dr. Hughes shared, there's the screeners, right, that we administer that currently have been administered. But then in the middle, you see how do we progress monitor in the interim, so in between that time. So M-Class is an assessment that can be administered or will be administered multiple times during the year. So we can see within that assessment how students are progressing in the interventions that are being provided. So you also see DIBELS, which can do the same, as well as Star Renaissance. And I think part of the question too, or concern related to like how many assessments are we going to administer, is we're at a critical point right now, because we're administering M-Class, in that now we actually can get more diagnostic information about where a student is in terms of their foundational literacy skills. With the Star Renaissance assessment, we didn't have that necessarily that more granular, finer detailed data around how students are doing in phonemic awareness, letter sound identification, those real specific foundational literacy skills that we have. As we go through this first administration of it this year, then we can look back, step back, and consider, okay, do we still need all of these assessments? Are we getting more powerful data from this new assessment system that we have in place? So now we're just more equipped to be able to also target now, with that knowledge and information about where students are, we can target and tailor the interventions to address those specific skills. And again, use the assessments to progress monitor how they're doing in those interventions.
Thank you. I think that's very exciting. So that it seems like we are doing that at the elementary school level. And I'm curious, at the secondary school level, we only adopted a science-based reading curriculum relatively recently. And so I'm concerned about the students who are in secondary school, and do we have that level of data and ability to intervene? I mean, do we know, like, if students know the sounds of their letters, and is it that granular? Because I think there are some students who are quite far behind.
So at this point, the data isn't that granular. So because the Star Renaissance assessment is only general literacy skills, it doesn't help us assess the foundational literacy skills. However, once we do know and identify students through the Star assessment, and we provide them the Lexia Power Up intervention, that does give us more data that we actually do have. We can see how they're doing with vocabulary, with grammar, with comprehension in terms of their literacy development. So we can get some once we provide the intervention through the intervention system, but the Star Renaissance data doesn't give us the foundational skills data.
So another question I have is I know that two of our schools recently went through the Secondary Scheduling Academy, and they talk a lot about interventions at the secondary level and how interventions need to be done by the most. If you are behind in reading, that you have a reading specialist delivering those interventions. Is that how we do it at the secondary level?
So at the secondary level, our principals recruit English language arts teachers or ALD teachers to provide the literacy interventions. And sometimes it can be difficult to get to have a teacher provide an additional period of intervention time. And so we are looking at recruiting even outside to get potentially retired teachers to help support in that space to provide that intervention. But it isn't necessarily with a literacy specialist who would provide that, with the exception of the interventions that Dr. Curry spoke about, the targeted intervention for our students on an IEP who have that written into their IEP goals, and they are provided that intervention time with a teacher who is trained in the Wilson Reading Program.
Dr. Beal.
Thank you for the presentation. I have similar questions. I mean, I also do have a desire to look at data, which I understand we're getting in October, and I would hope that we do look at all tiers and not just at tier one. Dr. Wilson, I think I have a question. So you had mentioned, I actually had a question about the interventions in secondary at the high school level with golden hour, royal time, golden, all the stuff. And you said there is we don't really have right now a big roster of teachers. So what is exactly happening during these times with these students?
So it looks different at each school site. And just to share with you the discussion we had at our most recent principals meeting, that time, the power hour, golden time, actually proved to be more challenging to provide the intervention at our high schools. So that was the specific time that they provided it last year using Lexia Power Up. And there were some challenges, I think more specifically at two high schools. So, for example, at Santa Barbara High, they created an elective class to provide that literacy intervention. And it's a guided studies literacy intervention, and the teacher is using Lexia Power Up for that. So it's looking differently and it's shaping out differently than it did last year. But that particular time was more challenging at the high school level.
So is this a 4-credit class that they're taking that is not these kind of interventioners, but this is a full term class that they have a dedicated teacher?
Correct.
Okay.
That's at Santa Barbara High.
Okay.
At San Marcos, they're doing something during their royal time, but it isn't the Lexia Power Up. It's a different intervention that specific teacher is providing during that small window of time.
So we think that over the next couple of months, we'll get some feedback from principals about what is happening at their individual schools and what is effective. Okay. It looks like from what's mentioned that if we have 1,800 students with IEPs, that's over 10% of our population. Is that correct? And is that mostly elementary? Did you say 1,876 students with IEPs?
1,866.
66. So that is more than 10% of our population. Is this evenly spread through elementary and secondary, or is there a preponderance in one versus the other?
Secondary has more students just because of the size of our secondary schools. So
Percentage wise, more?
yeah, I would say it's probably 60% of our population.
And then maybe I heard during the lecture that most of these students are going to fall into not just tier 2, but tier 3. Is that correct? Did I hear that correctly?
Well, it depends. So some students have speech only IEPs.
Oh.
So they're maybe working on articulation and they don't have any reading or math or writing goals. So there's a percentage of students which I can bring in October or November when I present, I can break it down for you. Students who are identified with reading difficulties or math difficulties qualify for specialized academic instruction. So they're provided support by a special education teacher. At the high school level for reading, they have a reading intervention class and teachers are trained in Wilson Reading. It's their literacy class and they're provided that intervention.
Okay, it sounds like there's a great deal of diversity. I'm interested kind of in the in between. So every fall we start a new grade with our students, but there's actually information from the year before, whether it's their CASP scores or their assessment by their teachers. Do we have any sort of process in place where we don't just start over again at the beginning of every year with the testing, but we have students that are really identified as either having a history of, and we maybe look at those students differently, instead of just having the first month being, let's retest them and let's see if they're still in the same place. Do we have any sort of pipeline where we are trying to do more continuity with these students and even thinking about summer interventions?
I could speak quickly about students with IEPs. So they're working on IEP goals. So that's how we measure progress. So special education teachers over the course of the school year take data on those goals and they, implement their specialized academic instruction. So they get progress reports at every report card period. So when a student transitions to the next grade, the new special education teacher, let's say if they're going from elementary to junior high, would be able to look at progress reports. And now that we're using Wilson, their notebooks, will be transferred over to that second grade band.
Okay, and that's students with IEP.
Students with IEPs, yeah.
Okay, so
For gen ed, I can give you an example of what is done in elementary. We don't start fresh every year. We have data from previous years, and there is articulation between the previous grade level to the next grade level so that we know the types of interventions that have been provided. And so a team at the school side provides that tiered and the tier support. So it's part of our MTSS system as a district, in which we know that students are already part of intervention, in that we progress monitor not just throughout the year, but from one year to the next as well, because the needs may still be there. And sometimes a student may not qualify for special education, for example, 1 year, but if the specific need progresses and there is a more significant need, then the student is referred through the SST process. It's referred either for a 504, additional intervention, or a 504, or potentially an IEP as well.
one of the things I'm wondering, and that's actually what I was saying, is that I'm hearing a little bit that it can be difficult to find teachers, it can be difficult to find time. Students are missing out on other core activities during the school day that may be also good for their social development. And we may need to think about, and this is getting to really a comment, we may need to think about having some sort of summer intervention where there's more availability of teachers and other people and time for these students. So it's just something to think about.
Ms. Caffrey.
So I have a follow-up question about the availability of teachers, and basically what I would like to understand is what percentage of students are behind, and why is it that we are not just hiring teachers specifically to work in intervention? Or it seems like this is a high priority for us as a district, is getting kids up to grade level. So why is it that, why is teacher recruitment an issue?
I can briefly share about elementary, and then I know that it could be a question also for secondary. But in the elementary space, Tier 1 instruction is the area of support. We provide tiered intervention within the classroom. And then we also have power hour as well as intervention after school. And so our grade level teachers are the ones providing that intervention support throughout the day, with support from volunteers, paraprofessionals, and other team members across the school.
So for secondary, it does look a little bit differently. First, when we staff and build our master schedules, we are building it for the students that are there based on the projected enrollments that we have, and making sure that every student has a full schedule. And then beyond that, if a school has additional staffing because their enrollment fell a little short, for example, and they have a little bit more wiggle room, then we do have some schools who are able to use teachers and provide a support period where the teacher can either push in, or they are creating an additional section, kind of like an elective that Dr. Wilson mentioned earlier. So they are doing some of that if they have staffing that's already within their allocated staffing for the school year. And then beyond that, of course, we want to be able to provide additional options. Students also have, so at the junior high level, they are all enrolled in 6 classes. So we don't want to pull them out of a core class in order to give them an intervention. So that does mean looking to something outside of those experiences if we can't give them something within their English class, for example, as a small targeted intervention in small groups. So that is why we're often looking for the before or after school, is just because students are also occupied with their regular core classes during the day.
So my understanding from reading the strategic scheduling book is basically that students need their core time plus additional intervention time. At the junior high level is the problem that we don't have a 7-period day and we don't have sufficient time in the day for kids to get intervention in the day. So it is happening mostly before or after school.
I think it depends on the student and what their individual needs are. We want to make sure that we are providing every student a strong core foundation. And so that means, you know, their core classes, English, math, science, social studies, PE. And then beyond that, for those students who need intervention, that is when we are looking to those other models. So what I remember the consultant that we use through New Solutions K-12, what he said around interventions and strategic scheduling was there is no such thing as a perfect model. So 6-period day, 7-period day, 8-period day, there is nothing perfect around that. It's about the decisions that the school team is making as they build their master schedule and where they choose to place their students and their staff in order to base it on their priorities and making sure that they are serving all their students in the way that they need to be served.
May I?
Yes.
I think that some of what you're getting here is system-wide responses to individual situations at every school. I don't want us to forget that we have 6,000 students in 3 comprehensive high schools. We have 3,000 students in 9 elementary schools. And in junior high is when we start to feed students from the neighboring feeder elementary schools, plus private schools, plus students that are moving into our community in the upper grades. So I think that I can see where you might feel like you're wanting a one answer or a one response, a one approach. And I think that I just want to double down on what the team is saying, that the work of MTSS is for them to really be constantly assessing who's coming, constantly creating processes and systems where we're looking at students and designing for the kids that are either right in front of us or coming to us based on vertical articulation, based on what the needs will be. We have seen students who were in the pandemic who have a lot of holes in some of their learning. We know that. We're not alone in doing that work. And I think as we're building back up from that moment forward, this is part of the challenge. I know that we asked about IEPs. We have kids that we received with IEPs already. So there's a lot of variability that's happening in the on-ramps that are coming into the school system. And I think our approach is to look at this more through the processes, and whether it's SST, MTSS, articulation, redesigning, that basically people have to make in real time adjustments. So I get that we want to have one size fits all or real, this is the answer. It's varied. It's really, really varied. As we continue to work on impacting the learning of secondary teachers in literacy, I know that one of the things we've discussed is the letters training being offered to secondary teachers. That's new and novel because we haven't in the past really thought about teaching teachers in secondary, the beginning reading foundations that they need to learn. We are also investing largely in the beginning years because you heard the high school principals say earlier, by the time they get them, it's a lot harder for all the reasons that have already been said to catch them up. That doesn't mean we give up on that. That doesn't mean we give up on it. That doesn't mean we try everything we can. But I think there's a lot of different avenues that we have to continue to try to get at what these students need.
I'm going to go Dr. Beal and then Ms. Caffrey. And then you'll be the first comment. You want to make a comment, so we're still in questions. Okay, Ms. Caffrey, and then I have a question.
So basically, I guess my question is really, and maybe this is partially Trustee Escobedo, and Dr. Maldonado have talked about a strategic plan, and I'm curious about a plan specifically for secondary students in literacy and looking at what is happening throughout the country and is Lexia sufficient? You know, what kind of model do we use for intervention? Things like that. And if a plan specifically for, because to me, it looks like our elementary plan is really very specific, and I'm wondering more about the secondary students. And I understand that it is harder to catch these students up, but I think that we can't forget them.
Yeah, so appreciate just both the inquiry and direction around the secondary space in terms of interventions. But I do want to back up a little bit to talk about the more immediate need in the secondary space in ELA is at the tier 1 level. And I do think, as Dr. Maldonado shared with regards to a systems approach, as you saw in that triangle, the best prevention or the best intervention is prevention, right? So we want to be able to prevent these continued, reading challenges or difficulties that students are having at the prevention level, so at the tier 1 level. So that's why you've seen at the elementary, really the start of it was the adoption of the tier 1 curriculum, right? So that helps us set a base foundation, get really good and really strong at that, so that then that prevents fewer and fewer students from moving and needing tier 2 and needing tier 3. So we want to start, as we've shared a little bit with you, we want to start there at the secondary level and really look at, and the state of California is also engaging in that work right now to release a list and build a new cycle for an ELA adoption in the secondary space.
So my question, I think, is going to be for Dr. Maldonado. You spoke about the complexity of the fact that, one, we're mostly a high school district, like we're largely a high school district. We have our elementaries, but our largest population is at the high school level. We then inherit students from our feeder districts. Have we made any sort of approach to the feeder districts to try and create coherence between the districts that come to us so that we're kind of aligned in how we're preparing our students for junior high and basically secondary?
We do have monthly meetings led by our county superintendent where we talk about some of the work that we're doing, but specifically just me and the 4 or 5 feeder superintendents. No, we have not done that. But we do have, we have had in the past articulation meetings, and I'm pretty confident that it happens between the Goleta Union School District and Goleta Valley Junior High in La Colina, which is mostly where they go to for the junior high schools. I would have to go back and check if our elementary is going to Santa Barbara Junior High and La Cumbre are also doing that. We also, I think 3 years ago, started to get data from the districts fed into our area student system, because that's another way for us to look at the assessments that are incoming from their school district. It would mostly be the CASP, the state assessment scores. I don't know enough about their STAR, if they use STAR or DIBELS. That would be something that we can definitely explore.
Yeah, I'm gonna provide a comment with, I think, just encouraging us to have those conversations about aligning. Mr. Vasquez.
Okay, I have a couple of questions. My first is, I was explaining a little bit about how, establishing high school students, mentoring younger elementary school students, and I was wondering, and we talked a lot about after school programs in that student advisory council meeting, and I was wondering if these tier 2 and 3 students would be, all in all of these students, or most of these students, or some of these students would be in those after school programs, just what kind of levels they're at.
Yes, after school programs would be an excellent way to provide that support and do that collaboration. We have, I believe about 40%, student and family service, 40% of our elementary students are serviced through the after school program, our AOK program. So that would be an excellent way to collaborate and provide that support.
Okay, and that's like, is that, would you say mostly made up of these tier 2 and 3 students? Would that be targeting these students or not?
I don't know the exact percentage, but I wouldn't say that it's all or the majority. So we would have to look at that data in order to respond to that.
Got it. Thank you. And then my other question is, in terms of the equity and access aspect in these tiered support systems, I just wanted to clarify what staff being culturally responsive means and what that looks like here in the district.
So when we adopt a curriculum, it goes back to the tier one support. And when we adopted a curriculum, we looked at the curriculum and assessed whether it was culturally and linguistically responsive for our students. And once we adopted the curriculum, we looked at certain workbooks that were provided within the curriculum, and we realized that there's some areas in which we needed to improve. We actually partnered with UCSB to review some of the materials for example, Within Wisdom, and to review certain grade levels. And the professor provided us with some recommendations, and we made some changes and provided professional learning last year to our teachers in specific grade levels to improve that lesson and make it more culturally relevant and culturally linguistically responsive for our students. So that's just one example.
Thank you.
Ms. Gaffrey.
I'm curious if we look at tier 1 data in our elementary schools and then, or see the number, I'm sorry, if we look at tier 2 data in our elementary schools and if we see a large percentage of kids who are needing support at the tier 2 level, is that a red flag that we need to work on tier 1? How do we assess whether our tier 1 instruction is working and in what schools we need to solidify the instruction?
If we go back real quick to the assessment slide. So we have different types of assessments that we use, and those assessments provide us with data. Those assessments let us know where the intervention should happen, or if we need to go back and reteach in tier 1. I'll give you a quick example. MClass is going to provide us with some of that data. MClass has been assessed. I can take a look at where my students are in the red. Let's say I have 25 students. Out of those 25 students, 20 are in the red in a specific area. That tells me as a teacher that I need to reteach that area rather than provide intervention. And so then if I do that same assessment, but the assessment results tell me that only 5 of the 25 students need support in that area, they're in the red, then I know that's an intervention, not a tier 1 situation, but an intervention. Does that make sense?
And are you looking at that also at the school level? So, yeah. I mean, it sounds like a teacher realizes they might need to reteach it, but do you also look at the school level and see this school needs more support in their tier 1 intervention?
We look at the district level.
Excuse me.
So I look at all the 9 elementary schools, look at where the red is for the 9 elementary schools. And then that's what we will use as information to know where we need to provide that targeted support. So when we offer professional learning, we are going to prioritize our time and resources at that school because we know that's the school that needs the most support, or maybe 2 schools. And then the school site, the principal will look at all their grade levels and will decide where there is the most need. And it could be 3rd and 5th grade. It could be various grades. And then the teacher looks at it at the individual level and for the whole grade. And then the PLC, which is, let's say, 3 teachers in 3rd grade, will look at the data for all the 3 classrooms, all 3rd grade students in that school. And then we'll provide those interventions and group students based on the needs.
All right, we are going to transition to comments, and Ms. Munoz, you can kick us off.
Thank you, President Escobedo. I attended a conference last week in San Diego. Let me see, help me out, Dr. Maldonado. Yes, thank you. Dr. Sandra Galvan, sorry, the superintendent, I attended her workshop and got fired up, as Dr. Maldonado knows. One of the comments she made initially is that about the teamwork. She said, you know, the superintendent is part of the team, right? And if you take that a step further, the cabinet, the directors are part of the team. And of course, the teachers are the ones that have the firsthand contact with our students. I want to comment that seeing the principals come in earlier and do their presentation in terms of their principals meetings, the results-based partnership, results-based leadership, how they work together in terms of helping our students. I know when I went to back to school night, Denise Alvarado, who needs to get her doctorate next, at Harding, you know, just broke it down for me. I'm certainly not, you know, an educator. And she broke it down. She took me to all the different classes and told me what was going on. And it made it very, at Harding, it made it very understandable to me, and how we in fact do have, I feel, neighborhood schools. They, you know, walk to the school. There's parents that have 1, 2, 3, or 4 children at the school or through our schools and so forth. And then I had the pleasure also of, apologies here, of meeting up with Dr. Marianne Hugh at La Colina, who also we sat and, you know, talked to the counselors there and met with the principal and Dr. Maldonado and such, in terms of how it comes together. Everybody's there for our students, whether it be chorus selection, an English class, et cetera, et cetera. I would like to invite, you know, my fellow board members to see us as a team. We're all working on this. I've been here, I know, you know, the longest it's been. I wish I had this presentation 5 years ago, honestly. The excellence that is being presented to us in this presentation and all the work that's going on, and this is only in terms of reading interventions, mind you, and all the work that's going on for our students. And as you know, as is stated, we get them from the elementary school, junior high, moving into the area, moving out, back and forth and so forth. And then we get the high schools, the alternative schools and so forth. I would honestly, you know, feel that the teachers and of course the parents and students could really use our support in terms of this. I feel, you know, I'm only speaking for myself, we're all in this together. And I'd really like to see us hopefully, you know, move forward and look at how, you know, there will be data that will be coming. There is a huge investment in our students, whether they're, you know, EMLs, dyslexia, have been at a place maybe, you know, mental health wise or psychosocially and so forth, that they didn't have some of the reading intervention earlier. Well, they have it. And as, you know, Denise, you know, explained earlier, what would happen? You already have, you have it down. What could I say? And stuff. So I would like to see us, you know, engage in that manner. If at all possible. I think it would be, you know, beneficial to our students and our district.
Thank you. Who's next? Mr. Banning.
I'll try and be brief. I want to say thank you for the presentation. I want to say thank you for the in-depth questions and the strategies and what if and why don't and all of this. I just want to acknowledge again that the work we're talking about here, we've taken, I don't know, let's just say 20 minutes or so of time on this, which is probably among the most complex kind of work that can possibly be done. We have 11,000 children in this district that are each individuals with particular needs and stories and things that go on. And we are desperately here as a team that all want the same thing for our students, for every one of our students. And I wish there was a silver bullet that said, if we did this this assessment here, 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 and here, and this one here, here, and here, it would give us all the data that tells us what to do with all the, but every assessment we do can only at its best give us the information for the single child that took that assessment. And so I just want to come back to some really great things I heard. I heard great questions about, could we try this? What about this? What about that? I heard statements about being excited by a presentation by a superintendent from San Diego. I heard we should be a team. We should be part of a team. All of those things are true. And I just want to caution all of us, no matter what our role is, to avoid thinking there is a solution. I've said this to individuals, but my 4 least favorite words these days are, why don't we just? Because it implies that there are simple solutions for incredibly complex societal and educational problems. And I, for one, am thrilled to be part of this board. We don't always see eye to eye. We have different perspectives about it. But each one of us are saying, wouldn't it be great if we could just solve all of these problems? And the only way we come close is as a team working together to do that. Thank you for the work that you're doing and for being part of a team that really represents this community and every student. I also want to thank Carlos for the articulate questions and regarding and thoughtful ideas about what could we do. I'll stop. Please, no, why don't we just?
Who's next? Dr. Bill.
So in my role as a board member, I feel that other than understanding what's going on, it's to hear all the information coming from different directions. And I appreciate the comments from fellow board member Munoz and fellow board member Manning. There really isn't a one-fits-all solution. I completely agree with that. That doesn't mean that we can't sort of like be thinking and saying, okay, what are possible solutions? So some of the things I've heard is that, we do in the elementary really need to work on tier 1, because if we can do very strong tier 1 work, we will actually be elevating our tier 2. Tier 3 sounds like a heterogeneous group. And so there may be some challenges there, but tier 1 and tier 2 would be pretty good if we can elevate them. In the secondary space, I'm having a little more trouble wrapping my mind around just focusing on tier 1. I think it's a little bit different. The students are getting their literacy in different classes in different ways. And so it is kind of a bigger ask. And we're talking about these intervention classes that we do. And I do remember hearing that one of our goals is to actually have our teachers being involved with the students who need the tier 2 and potentially tier 3 interventions, and having support for the tier 1 students, but they're kind of in a good place in continuing that support. We're definitely in a period of transition. We're doing all this testing, we're organizing a system, and we're trying to figure out, as we encounter information and data, how do we improve that data if there needs to be improvement. It is also difficult in the same meeting to hear about a system where we are looking at math in the secondary. So we've taken high school and we've said we have students that need to do better at Math 1. And so we've made a decision to have Math 1 intervention be a year-long class, right? And then we've decided that we are going to give them extra time. So now there's extended math. So these are students who are really struggling. And then we have a teacher come to us and say, we have all these students in a classroom and a teacher is going home and crying every night. So we've gotten those students, we've changed the system, we've decided we're going to deal with them differently so we can catch them up. But at the end of it, there seems to be an issue that we need to have more teacher support of these students. And as we go into negotiations, how do we also add that to the puzzle? How do we really say, how do we shore up our teaching in our schools in a way that benefits all of us, the students, the teachers, the system? And so that's really what I'm thinking when I'm asking these questions. What are we forward looking? Are we looking at what's happening? Maybe this is just one class, but hearing that math story, I thought we really got to a good place with these students, but ultimately there is a teacher in distress, feeling that they're going to fail at what we want to happen is to have this longer class, more time, but too many students to do an effective intervention with these students. So I think that's really speaking to us about some part of the system we also have to address. So that's my comment.
Thank you. Ms. Caffrey.
So I would 100% agree with you, Trustee Munoz, on your teamwork comment. And I just read the governance core, which is all about strong boards, and teamwork was the number one really important point. The second was moral urgency and feeling like boards have efficacy and that we can make a difference, and that what we do really matters and how we spend our time really matters. And so I think in the questions I was asking, and I think that our staff has done an exceptional job, and we are really making some exciting strides forward. I mean, I think we've just come so far in terms of using data to help us do better assessments of kids and doing more interventions. And I think what I would really like to get to a place as a board is that we are not in the minutia anymore, and we're at a strategic level and using our time to monitor progress and understand our interventions if they're working. And then I mean, there are no silver bullets, but I think we are seeing lots of districts making big strides, including in special ed, by approaching special ed differently. So I think Tier 3, I would like to see more of bright spots, like where districts are really succeeding in special ed and how they're structuring their programs, because I think that is a huge opportunity. We've heard it many times from literacy and dyslexia advocates that many of our special ed students are really far behind. And I think if we had data today, I mean, we would see it as well. So I want to say thank you very much for all of your work. I think we've come so far. We really have. And I want to work as a team, and I think we really are moving in that direction. And I'm super excited. I mean, that we had presentations by governance coaches. I mean, like LeBron James has a coach. So, I mean, we're not at the LeBron James level yet, but everyone can use some coaching and some help. And I think that's my comment.
Mr. Vasquez.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for the presentation. It was very informative, and I second all that's been said. In this comment section, there's a couple of other things that I wanted to bring up. First being the mental health aspect of, especially in this tier 2 and 3, tier 2 and 3 students. I think that feeling, from a student perspective, feeling stuck or behind is probably the worst feeling you could feel in a classroom setting. And I feel that from my peers. And I know that, I recognize what Mr. Shingle said about limiting the assessments that we have, but I think this is, targeting a completely separate idea. I know that we do have mental health assessments, but I don't know if they're separated for, to target specifically these students. And so, yeah, and I think it's not just about feelings, but I think that confidence in your abilities, and I think that, really impacts performance. And so, that's just something I wanted to bring up. And then my other idea was, especially with the story we had with the math students, that teacher is, I actually had her, and she she was a great teacher, and this story about having too many students and teachers feeling distressed, I think is something that could be supplemented with, I know I've said it before, but students helping other students. There is, for example, a new committee being started this year by a peer of mine for bilingual students to tutor Spanish-speaking students at other Spanish-speaking students at San Marcos. And I know Ms. Tilton specifically was, requesting help in that area, having Spanish speaking students come in and help her with supporting these students. And so I know that there are students who want to help. This is, a committee is being established because there's a, big group of people who would, join and who are interested in doing this kind of work. And yeah, I'm kind of wondering if there's room for that sort of support, or if this is a strictly teacher to student kind of thing. But yeah.
Thank you for that, Mr. Vasquez. I will echo support for what you're talking about. I think it's a fantastic idea. Students helping students. They do something similar at universities, and it's quite effective. I would ask that Dr. Maldonado, if my colleagues agree, obviously you are working with Mr. Vasquez and the student council, but I think in addition to that, finding incentives for students and maybe lowering the barriers for some students that, I don't know if it looks financial, but it could be stipends, it could be something of the sort, but I would be interested in that sort of direction to Dr. Maldonado. Do my colleagues have any opposition to that at all? Ms. Caffrey?
So I 100% agree about students helping students. I think we really need to be, we have our new finance committee, and one big piece of that is academic ROI. So what is the return on investment of our interventions, and are they working? So I think that students helping students can definitely work, but thinking about it really thoughtfully, who is getting help? I want to make sure that students, when they get tutoring, that it actually makes a difference for them, because otherwise it's not a good use of their time. So which students are getting help, and and how does it work? And similarly with all our tutoring programs, who's giving the tutoring, and is it moving the needle for kids?
Exactly what the direction to Mr. Vasquez and Dr. Maldonado would be, because I don't think we're going to solve it up here. At least I have no interest in trying to. My next comment would be, so thank you, Mr. Vasquez, for that idea. The next is, thank you so much. We've spent so many years talking, I think, at least while I've been on the board, about tier 2 and 3. And rightfully so, Dr. Wilson pointed out, really the focus is on tier 1, a really strong tier 1. And we've heard it time and time again. A really strong tier 1 is prevention. For the students that are tier 2 and tier 3, I think this presentation is really helpful for us and for the community and for folks who, parents, students, in understanding what assessments we have, why we use the assessments we do, and then to the questions from my colleagues, which I thought were excellent, from Dr. Beal and Ms. Caffrey, about how do we know the interventions we're using are working? And what I hear is that we're pretty close to having some really good data to use in doing exactly that, evaluating the interventions. So I am quite hopeful. I just want to say thank you, because I know this is, to Mr. Banning's point, to Ms. Munoz, this is a meaty topic, and to be able to do it in the way that you did it tonight is fantastic. I have some interest in seeing some tier 2 and 3 data in the future. I'm not going to direct that, like, we prioritize. We have a pretty packed governance calendar, but I'm going to ask that where you see fit, if you could present some of that data, that would be extremely helpful. And then the last thing is, I have an interest in encouraging Dr. Maldonado to start a conversation. We can't dictate. We have no governance over our feeder districts, but I think it is really important that we try and create alignment from our feeder districts into our district, and so that we're all kind of using similar assessments, similar curriculum, so that when we get students into the secondary space, we're not starting from so many different places. And I'd like to encourage you to have those conversations. I know they've come up somewhat in the past, but more intentionally, especially as we as a district are talking a lot about alignment. I think if we have so much intersection with some of our feeder districts, we should also have discussions about alignment. So that is my final comment. Just much gratitude. Any other last minute comments? Not seeing any. So we are going to close that report item, and we are going to take a break and come back at 8:45, a 10-minute break. Call this meeting to order at 8:48 p.m. And we have another report and discussion item, F2, first reading and discussion of board policies and administrative regulations, 6141.2. Welcome, Dr. Wilson.
Thank you and good evening again. Before you is the first reading and discussion of 3 board policies and administrative regulations that have been updated in accordance to California School Board Association's August 2025 guidance. These revisions reflect new legal requirements resulting from the recent U.S. Supreme Court decision in Mahmoud v. Taylor.
Okay, do we have any public comment for this item?
We do.
Mr. Manning.
Brianna Serrato and York Shingle.
Hello again. In reading through all of the attachments and the AR and BP policies that have changes, it is very unclear if the changes to BP 6141.2, recognition of religious beliefs and customs, and AR 6141.2 as well, only apply to the additional board policies and ARs that had updates listed on this item, which were 6142.1 sexual health and HIV/AIDS prevention instruction and 6142.8 comprehensive health education. Or does this apply to anything that the guardian may wish to opt out of? If the latter, how is the district providing the preemptive opt-out option? My following comments and questions are if it is the latter. The memo for this states background, as newer revised federal regulations and California Education Code provisions become law, and when court decisions affect local educational policy, CSBA provides districts with updated sample policies and recommended language. Again, it states federal regulations and California Education Code provisions become law. It does not say or. So why are the changes being made when California Department of Education states caution is warranted in implementing Mahmoud? Several aspects of the ruling in Mahmoud warrant the exercise of due caution for local education agencies in conforming their practices and policies to the new requirements set forth by the court. These factors include the ruling is based on highly fact-specific circumstances, warranting the development of locally determined implementation based on the facts unique to each school. The ruling provides little or no direction for implementation by schools as to very critical matters, including by way of example, whether and how knowledge of religious impacts on students should be imputed to schools, how schools are to determine that religious-based impacts are significant enough to require noticed and opt-out procedures, what efforts schools must make to separate these policies and materials that cause the requisite religious-based impact from those aspects that do not, and whether educational services must be provided to students whose parents opt out of selected activities, classes, or material. On June 27th, 2025, the U.S. Supreme Court issued its decision on Mahmoud v. Taylor, a case with direct implications for curriculum and parent notification rights. Court held that the First Amendment prohibits school districts from including instructional materials such as storybooks featuring lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, or questioning LGBTQ+ character or themes without first providing parents, guardians with both 1, advance notice, and 2, an opportunity to opt their children out of those lessons.
30 seconds.
So may I remind the board and the district that on May 27th, the board unanimously approved resolution 2024-2531 in recognition of June as LGBTQ2IA+ Pride Month, which stated, it recognizes that queerphobic bias exists and takes a stance to eliminate both explicit and implicit, as well as micro and macro aggressions through proactive messaging and celebrating queer culture and history. It's further resolved that she'll implement history and social studies curriculum that highlights the contributions of members of the LGBTQIA+ community and allows students to see themselves accurately reflected as prescribed by the Fair Education Act, Senate Bill 48, which was signed into law on July 14, 2011, and further resolved in accordance with BPAR 1312.2 that any challenge to materials highlighting LGBTQIA+ contributions and or identifies, the review committee shall have a representative that identifies as that or within that focused organization.
Thank you.
So how do these BP and AR updates align with that resolution? Was that resolution just performative? What happened to the board stance and the need to the current regimen in response to the Dear Colleague letter related to DEI? This is a very slippery slope that can go beyond just LGBTQ factors, but also science, social studies, history, and also SEL.
Thank you.
York Shingle.
Good evening again. Good evening, Board and Cabinet. Thank you to Dr. Maldonado for including SBTA Vice President Kat Ross and I last week in talking about this work, giving us a preview of it and responding to the Mahmoud and Taylor v. Taylor decision. While many of us disagree with the Supreme Court decision, I do understand the need to follow the law. I was looking at the California Department of Education website today to learn more about it. It specifically says, and I have that exact same quote, I won't read the whole thing, just the first line. Caution is warranted in implementing Mahmoud. So I'm wondering if we really need to be this proactive in addressing this decision or if we're able to wait for more guidance on the CDE. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll turn it back to the board for any questions, comments, questions. Dr. Bill?
So I have a question. I know that we have the sheet for policy 6141.2, and it looks like we're just really updating some verbiage there. We are not actually fundamentally changing our policy. So that this is with the religious beliefs that there's just some words that literally are changing that are like saying teachers and other district staff instead of just staff. But and then the notification, which is now legally required. So I don't know that I have any issues with those policy changes. When I look at what we are talking about for, in the new court decision, Mahmoud versus Taylor, are we just appending that to our policy? Because we did say that we support students and their choices and in our district. So I don't see that the same thing where I see where we're actually amending our policy other than we're saying we're adding this information. Does that make sense?
No, I don't think I completely understand your question. Is it related to one specific policy or all?
Are we just adding this court decision? And, what are we saying by adding this, the words about the court decision? Are we just appending it and we're not really making a statement about whether we're going to do anything about it? What are we actually doing with that particular policy?
So we are appending it with the updated language from CSBA, which has recommended language to follow the Supreme Court decision as well as state.
Where's the language here? It's just, I don't see that we have our original policy with language.
So any revised language would be in red.
That's the religious beliefs one. Oh, isn't that the one on the religious beliefs? That says nothing about our students and their.
Yeah, so
so that one I said I don't have a problem with it. We're
Okay.
just changing some words. I'm talking about the policy as in regard to basically sexual health and HIV prevention instruction, comprehensive health education. Where are we changing our policy? Where is that? Are we redacting language? Are we changing language? What are we doing?
So
think-
can we put the second policy 6142.1?
Yeah, on page 9, is that page 9 of?
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I think that if you'll go back a page, oops, sorry. There's one portion in the regulation for 6142.1 that has been moved from the regulation to the policy.
I
That
see.
longer set of things that it appears in red in the policy now under general criteria for instructions and materials. The CSBA and their legal counsel believe that this was more policy related than regulation related. So you'll see in the regulation, the following regulation of the same number, that text is scratched out or blocked out of the regulation. So that's why that one has the larger block of text added to it. It has only been moved from the regulation to the policy.
Okay.
I believe the other two, and this one is as well, simply add the same comment regarding the Supreme Court decision.
You can see here on the screen too.
Yeah, it's the area in red there that was in the regulation that was moved into the policy.
And it provides that specific language around the opt-out to align with the Supreme Court decision.
Well, yes, I'm actually referring to the next section behind, down below, general criteria for instruction and materials. The bottom part, which keeps going to the next page. All of that language existed, it just was in the regulation, not in the policy.
Ms. Caffrey.
Okay.
So Mr. Shingle asked if the CD has different guidance than CSBA and whether we considered that before bringing forward the CSBA language.
Yeah, the California Department of Ed guidance is pretty general, and it does say that each LEA or district basically has the responsibility to implement it in accordance to their district needs. And so it's very general, and we have consulted with other districts. We have done a lot of research in this space. We've worked specifically with our principal team at our recent principal meeting and have discussed the ways in which we would implement the opt-out procedure.
So
I just wanted to add that this is where we are aligned with with our county superintendents, because all of us are taking this similar language to our boards.
thank you. When does our general in-house legal counsel start?
She starts next Monday.
Okay. So there's going to be a second reading for this. And so if we can maybe get her opinion for the second reading, and if she comes up with an opinion that we should wait, or if there's another path.
We will make that her first assignment.
Okay, thank you.
Good idea.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. So with that, we will close out our report for F2 and we will move to G1, public hearing for the renewal of Olive Grove Charter School petition. Do we? Having too much fun. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. So this is our opportunity to provide a public hearing as Olive Grove is renewing their charter petition. We have our public hearing at this time, and then a month from now, we will be bringing our recommendation to the board after reviewing and going through the process of analyzing and then giving our final conclusion and recommendation to the board for the charter renewal. So we'd like to open up the public hearing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Benz. Do we have public comment for this item?
We do. I have 12 cards. We'll do them in groups of 3. Our first.
In that case, for that many cards, we're going to go to 2 minutes of public comment instead of 3.
2 minutes. All right. We'll start with Meg Ridman, Leah Lippincott, and Tino Yarchetta.
Good evening. My name is Meg Ridman, and I am proud to serve as the superintendent for the Olive Grove Charter Schools. I am here tonight to speak in support of Santa Barbara Unified School District's renewal of Olive Grove Charter Santa Barbara. For nearly 25 years, Olive Grove has been a part of Santa Barbara County and this community, offering a flex-based independent study program for students in grades TK through 12. As you've heard, or you will hear tonight, our model provides a safe, personalized, and supportive learning environment for students whose needs may not always be met in the traditional setting. We serve a diverse population of students, including those facing health or safety challenges, families in transition, and learners balancing personal, family, or professional goals and needs. I'd like to share a few data points to help paint a picture of who makes up our student body. As of Census Day last school year, 24-25, 60% of our students were in their first year of enrollment with Olive Grove. 20% were in their second year. 70% were in grades 10 through 12. Over 32% were in 11th grade alone. 58% of our students were socioeconomically disadvantaged. Almost 7% were English learners. 70% were Hispanic. And 13.5% of our students were students with disabilities. Many came to us after struggling academically and socially elsewhere. One of the things
20 seconds.
that sets Olive Grove apart is our ability to attend to each student with care and address each of their needs. Our outcomes reflect our commitment to equity, opportunity, and preparing students for success in life. We're proud of our strong record of compliance, our fiscal solvency, and our positive relationship with the State Board of Education. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Leah Lippincott, Tino Yaracheta, and Laura Little.
Good evening. I'm going to jump straight into some stories of growth. I'm going to highlight some of our students. I've been working with Olive Grove for 7 years now, and so these are just some highlights. So I'll start with an 11th grader. This was a student that came to us from the public schools in Santa Barbara. When she joined Olive Grove, she was very closed off. She had checked out, her walls were up. In one of my first interactions with her, I caught her cheating and had a really good conversation with her about that. But she continued to come into our in-person high school biology labs. I'm the biology teacher, so I got to work with her. And in collaboration with her advisor, she really started to loosen up. She was making friends, her attitude, her work ethic improved rapidly. And one of my final correspondences with her, she sent me an email and said, "I am really enjoying your class, and I'm super interested in biology thanks to you. I was wondering if you're aware of any biology programs that you could recommend." So that's definite growth for her. I'm going to jump straight down to a student that's very close to my heart. So in his previous school, this was in the 6th grade, he was very avoidant, doing just about everything possible to get out of class. School was overstimulating and the learning just was not happening despite a long list of implemented IEP accommodations. Teachers and administrators were trying everything in their power, but nothing was really improving. There was calls home multiple times each week. He was flunking all of his classes. This is a very sweet, very curious, energetic kid with a penchant for self-criticism. After joining Olive Grove, his distractions are way down and his grades are way up. He has lots of valuable one-on-one time with mom. He's still working on breaking negative thought cycles, but the future looks bright. That's my kid. Now, I can't predict the outcomes of alternative universes, and it's very possible that these students may have had immense growth in their previous schools, but I can't help but speculate that Olive Grove was exactly what they needed at the time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Tino Yaracheta, Laura Little, and David Zitten.
Good evening. My name is Tino Yaracheta, and I am here not only as an employee and advocate, but also as someone who has seen firsthand the life-changing impact our charter school has had on students, families, and our community. Our school was founded on the belief that every student deserves a personalized, supportive education that meets them where they are and helps them reach their full potential. Over the years, we observed students who might not have thrived in a traditional setting, students who needed flexibility, students who needed a second chance, and students who simply needed someone to believe in them. As HR manager, I want to emphasize the importance of collaboration amongst the team members. Recently, we worked together to revamp our school's mission statement and core values, ensuring that they align with our shared morals and beliefs while reflecting the dedication of our staff. Our staff is carefully selected through a collaborative process. This ensures that every hire is the right fit for the needs of our community. Our process reflects our commitment to building a team that not only upholds our mission and values, but also strengthens the culture and success of Olive Grove. This school is a choice my family intentionally made. After my family endured a traumatic experience involving hate violence, we sought a place where our children could feel safe again. We wanted to ensure not only their physical safety, but also the security of knowing that their academic success would not be jeopardized. Most importantly, we needed a school where they could rebuild trust in education, finding once again to be safe and supportive environment rather than one marked by fear. Every family has their own unique reasons for choosing Olive Grove. For us, it was about safety, stability, and restoring a sense of belonging. What unites us all is the belief that Olive Grove provides a supportive and individualized environment where students can thrive.
15 seconds.
I recognize that the decision before you tonight is difficult, but by renewing us, you will continue the choice for families and allow them to stay in an environment where students can continue to succeed. Thank you for your time, your service, and your commitment to doing what is best for our students.
Thank you. Laura Little, followed by David Zitten and Rosa Alvarez.
Hello, my name's Laura Lytle, and I have never spoken before.
Can you bring the mic to your mouth? We'll restart the clock.
Never spoken before. Anyway, I have
Okay.
a lot to say. All I have to say is that I am a graduate of Santa Barbara Unified School District. I have a high school freshman at DP. We all did great. I have a junior high school student who was not able to manage the traditional educational system that we have. I found Olive Grove and they made our lives, they made our lives so much better. December of last year, she was failing everything. And in February, we moved to Olive Grove and she's thriving. She is getting A's and B's. She's communicating with people. She wants to go to the library. She's asking questions. She is thriving in this school. Sorry. The school has been such tremendous hope and love that it's just amazing. And I can't imagine where we would be without it. I actually work in a non-traditional school setting. So non-traditional students and non-traditional schools are absolutely something we all need to have. As we have all gotten through some of the traditional schools, sometimes we need a non-traditional environment to help out the other ones. Again, my name is Laura Lytle, and I thank you for all you guys do.
Thank you. David Zitten, Rosa Alvarez, followed by Sergio Sanchez.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Dave Zitten, and I have the privilege of serving as Special Education Director for all 4 learning centers at Olive Grove Charter School. After serving as SPED Director for 7 years at a LAUSD Charter Network, I took on this role. And I'm proud to speak to you tonight with the dedicated and transformative work that our team carries out each day. At Olive Grove Charter School, especially at our Santa Barbara Learning Center, we serve a diverse population of students with disabilities, including autism, specific learning disability, other health impairment, speech and language impairment, and emotional disturbances. Many of the students who come to us have struggled both academically and socially in traditional school settings. What makes Olive Grove unique and what truly sets us apart is our ability to implement each student's IEP in the way it was genuinely intended, with consistency, with integrity, and with a personalized approach that meets the students where they are. Our flexible model allows us for a kind of tailored support for students with disabilities that they need to thrive. In terms of compliance, Olive Grove Charter School is deeply committed to honoring all IEP timelines and delivering services with fidelity. Our education specialists are highly qualified, credentialed, and passionate about ensuring that every student receives the support they deserve. But our work doesn't stop there. We take our responsibility seriously to prepare students for life beyond high school.
20 seconds.
Through strong partnerships, including the Department of Rehabilitation, we offer college and career readiness services. We guide our high school students in writing resumes, completing job applications, and practicing interview skills. We help them navigate the FAFSA and explore vocational and technical programs and even chart a path towards a 4-year university. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Rosa Alvarez, followed by Sergio Sanchez and Shirlene Fonseca.
Hola, buenas noches, miembros de la mesa directiva y personas aquí presentes. Mi nombre es Rosa Álvarez. Sí.
Change the clock to 4 minutes. Oh, okay, all right.
Gracias.
Sergio Sanchez? Oh, okay. How about Charlene Fonseca? Thank you.
Good evening. It's okay. Good evening, board members. My name is Charlene Fonseca, and this is my second year at Olive Grove Charter. I want to tell you guys about the great and amazing support that this school has brought to my personal life and as a student. It has completely changed my perspective in I struggle with anxiety, and this was such a good alternative school for me, and it really helped me grow as a student and become way more responsible. I think the school really shows you a lot about responsibility by offering us also an extracurricular classes where you can go to in-person art classes, you can take guitar lessons that they just recently started offering. It has made an amazing impact for me as a student. I love their flexible, their flexibility that they have is amazing. You have a lot of time to do all your things. You can even interact with some kind of job if you want to start a job. It's just a great way and just an amazing program for me. It's really impacting, and I really want you guys to know this is really helpful for not only me, but a lot of students who struggle with the same situations as me and other kids that struggle with bullying, that struggle with a lot of other things. So it would really mean a lot if we kept the program in. Thank you for your time, guys.
Thank you. All right. Rosa Alvarez.
Ok, buenas noches, miembros de la mesa directiva y personas aquí presentes.
Good evening, board members and everybody here present.
Mi nombre es Rosa Álvarez y esta noche vengo a hablarles un poco de lo que significa en mi vida Olive Grove Charter School.
And my name is Rosa Alvarez, and I am here to speak a bit about what it means for me to have Olive Grove in my life.
Ok, el motivo principal, yo buscaba una escuela en casa porque acabo de moverme hace 9 meses con mi hija a esta ciudad, entonces era muy difícil para mí tratar de llevarla a una escuela en persona.
So for me, one of the main things was to have a schooling opportunity at home for my daughter because we recently moved to this city 9 months ago. So it was a way for us to get started.
Y especialmente porque es una persona que tiene un nivel bajo de ansiedad, entonces en persona le costaba más trabajo llegar a una escuela.
And also because she has anxiety, so it's hard for her to go to school in person.
Entonces yo como llegué a Charter School fue por medio de las redes sociales.
So the way I found the charter school is through social media.
Lo que más me gusta de esta escuela, les hago saber, es que el estudio, aparte de ser independiente en casa, siempre hay un advisor al pendiente de mi hija con respecto a sus tareas y que me hace llegar la información semanal por correos electrónicos o llamadas de teléfono si es necesario.
So one of the things that I like the most, besides having the option for my daughter to do her schooling at home, is the fact that they have an assigned advisor to each student. And so that person is aware and is always helping my daughter make sure that she turns in her assignments on time. And also they have weekly communication with me.
También me gusta mucho la manera en que tienen un consejero con ella para saber y aconsejarla sobre qué clases tomar y estar al pendiente sobre sus clases para graduarse de de la high school.
And I also like that she has a counselor that's assigned to her to make sure that she's taking all of the correct classes so that she can graduate from high school.
También tienen actividades curriculares como arte y música y todo el personal es muy amable y tienen una persona en la oficina que es muy amable que habla español y me saca todas mis dudas en cuanto a la educación de mi hija.
And they also have a lot of extracurricular opportunities like art and music. And they also have an office and they have the person that's there at the office, she speaks Spanish. So she really helps me with all of my questions.
La principal también es una parte muy importante en esta escuela porque ayuda mucho también a los estudiantes y lo sabe escuchar también.
So the principal is also a really important person in this school because she's able to listen to the students and can help them very well.
Gracias a todos los maestros de Olive Grove Charter School y a ustedes por permitirme esta noche exponer mi experiencia como mamá con respecto a esta escuela.
So thank you to all of the teachers at Olive Grove Charter School, and thank you all for allowing me the opportunity to speak and to share my experience.
Que tengan bendecida noche.
And have a blessed night.
Thank
you.
Thank you. All right, next we have Stephen Seifert, Sophia Gantes, and Michelle Eben.
Good evening, school board members and student rep. My name is Stephen Seifert, and I am a teacher and advisor at Olive Grove Charter School. I'd like to share some information and a couple personal thoughts that you might want to consider as you think about renewing our charter. First of all advisors and teachers at Olive Grove are California credentialed, and all of them have years of experience working with independent study schools and independent study students. Probably my favorite aspect of Olive Grove is that I really get to know my students. I get the opportunity to develop a personal relationship over years of one-on-one meetings every week. Also at Olive Grove, it's good to know that our students are not left to themselves to figure everything out as an independent study student. Students can meet virtually with all their teachers during office hours to get help. Also, students can meet with our amazing tutors virtually or in person on any school day and get one-on-one help with any subject that they might need. And we provide some other supports as well. As an Olive Grove teacher, I really enjoy the support of our experienced and credentialed special education department. They provide quality services for my IEP and 504 students. Finally, at Olive Grove Charter School, with our supportive team of family support coordinators, center directors, tutors, advisors, and teachers and counselors, it provides a strong and independent study school experience for all of our students here in Santa Barbara and in the Central Coast, and helps them be successful in school and life. Thank you for your time and your consideration.
Thank you. Sophia Gantes, Michelle Eben, and Karina Flores. They're all gone. Okay, that finishes the comments then.
All right, so that is the public hearing, and it comes back to us at the next board meeting in a month.
Sorry, the team has to conduct a review
Mhm.
and then they will be back in a month to give the recommendation to the board.
Okay, thank you. And thank you everyone for who came out for public comment. So that closes out G1, and that takes us to H1, acceptance of donations for September 23rd, 2025. Do I have a motion?
I move to accept the donations for September 23, 2025 with gratitude.
Do I have a second?
I second the motion.
We have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous. Closes out H1 and moves us to the consent agenda. Are there any items that anyone would like to pull from the consent agenda? I'm not seeing any. Oh, Ms. Caffrey.
Prop 28,
Which one is that?
it's I
16.
16.
So we're going to pull I-16. Are there any additional items that folks would like to pull? If not, can I get a motion on the rest of the consent agenda, and then we'll take that one item alone?
I move to approve the consent agenda minus the item 16.
Do I have a second?
I second.
I have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. And so we'll take I-16, Ms. Caffrey.
So I'd just like to hear, I think Prop 28, we're supposed to spend 80% of the funds on staffing. What percentage of the funds are we spending on staffing this year?
We have Mr. Vince walking up. Welcome.
Thank you. So for this school year in particular, we have to look at the formula in particular. I don't know what percentage of the funds in particular, but what's listed there that was presented to CDE as well as to the board, that's the number of FTEs that are being provided at this time out of Prop 28. So we would just have to do the math in terms of the funding. And remember, the funding goes to specific sites as well. So we'd have to crunch that and then get the percentage. One other thing to keep in mind is that we have been in conversations with the California Department of Education. And as we continue to move forward and hire more and more employees with Prop 28, then we're still in compliance with the law as we work up to the 80%.
So do we need to spend the remaining amount on materials this year, or can we roll it over and save it for future use?
That's a great question. So what will end up happening is we'll submit for a waiver, and the waiver will ask, we're basically asking whatever money we have for, this is last year's Prop 28 money, just to be clear. So whatever we have left over, we're asking to spend that on materials, contracts similar to what we would do with staff, meaning we would not hire with certificated or classified staff because this is now becomes one-time funds. So that's what we ask for with the waiver. As we go from year to year to year, you'll notice that the waiver will be asking for less and less money because we're going to be increasing the staffing. The goal is to get not just 80%, is to get as much to 100% as possible. So.
Dr. Beal.
Maybe I misunderstood. Don't we have up to 3 years to spend last year's money? So would we not wait another year before we asked for a waiver for last year's money?
We only have this year to spend the Prop 28 money for staffing. Let me see if I can try to explain this. So every year we get Prop 28. So if we don't spend that money on staffing or increase staffing, then that money gets circulated for 2 more years. So that happens. And then the following year, we get a new chunk of money. And then with whatever's left over, we're not wanting to use it on staffing. We're wanting to use it for the supplemental funding sources in terms of supplies and equipment. So it's 3-year cycle for each pot of money. So this is going to go from year to year to year in terms of that. Yeah, please.
So I believe to answer your question, it's what's left from the first year's allocation. This would be the 3rd year. And I think that's how it's kind of rolled. So that's what has to be spent by the end of this year.
I thought we already asked for a total waiver for the very first year.
So we did. And so with that amount of money, we actually, the first year, that was 23-24 school year. So that school year we asked for a waiver, and we just distributed that to all the schools. So, and that's 100% of that funds for being waivered. And then and then next year we'll be giving them this past year's waiver funds. So it'll be like this rolling cycle until we just get it down to, no waiver funds, there'll be staffing.
But I would presume then the goal is to reach 80% or higher in any given year, so that the waiver funds are, I mean, if there are waivers, you don't want to put it into more personnel that would go beyond the number.
Correct.
Rolling forward.
Yeah, you definitely, with whatever we waiver, you don't want to touch that money for certificated or classified staff, right?
But our goal is to grow closer past 80 and closer to 100.
Right. So every year, like for this year, we're going to schools and we're going to be meeting with staff and principals to really be strategic on how we're staffing and increasing the staffing with this year's Prop 28 funds. So.
But also clear that this request in consent is for monies from 24-25.
That's correct. So this is a report that we send to CDE for their review, and it's part of compliance.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Ms. Caffrey.
So is the Arts Steering Committee a part of the conversation on the Prop 28 spending, or how does that committee kind of play in?
So that's a great question. Our goal for our meeting that's coming up on Thursday in particular is that what we want to do with the committee is number one, talk about the waivers with Prop 28 and what that means and how much money they're getting and how that plays out this year. Strictly on buying stuff, okay? No staffing. The second part of it is we need to talk to them and get their input on how they want to do the long game in terms of Prop 28. Do they want to spend 100% of the Prop 28 on staffing, or do they want to save, let's say 90% on staffing and maybe saving 10% year after year to purchase instructional materials? So thinking about it in a very strategic way and getting their input might look different at elementary, junior high, or high school. So getting their input on the thinking process around this. Yeah.
Any additional questions, comments? Not seeing any. Can I get a motion? Ms. Caffrey.
I motion to approve the 2024-25 Arts and Music in Schools annual report.
Do I have a second?
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous. Aye. All right. So that ends our meeting. We have coming events, which we have a board holiday on the 2nd. We have Dyslexia Awareness Month, National Hispanic Heritage Month, and our special board meeting on the 11th. Anything before we close out? All right. Then I adjourn this meeting at 9:30. Bye, everyone. Have a great night. The gavel